welcome back, everybody. I appreciate everyone for taking the time to be here. We've got quite a few more faces here than we're used to. If you guys hear a small crackle on my mic, I apologize. I have to get some cables fixed in my audio, so you guys will have to deal with it. It's very faint. I apologize to those who may have headphones that it could be very noticeable. But thank you regardless for being here. Guys, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to come join us again today, this week. It's awesome to be able to consistently be able to do this and have just genuine interest from everybody as a whole. So I want to thank you for being here. We're picking up on a topic that we left off last week. Carandis, hey man, perfect timing. We're going to be picking up on a topic that we left off last week, which will be talking about class balance, classes overall, opinions on specific class types. Now, we did manage to only cover just a few yesterday, and some moments got a little bit heated, which was good. So hopefully we can take a little bit more consideration into time, but making sure that we get our opinions across. So I don't know how we really want to jump into this, if we want to go head first into this, but I'm going to leave this as an open window for anyone to pitch in anything they want to get across in the beginning here. How's everyone doing today?
All right, just woke up.
Fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Heck yeah, dude. I appreciate you guys being here. So
Labor Day.
Yeah, on Labor Day of all days. So this is a big topic. Some of the last classes that we ended up leaving off on actually were Meiwa, as we came to a close with Witches and Wizards. I feel like a good class to maybe start with. I know we don't have any Musa mains in the room, but how would you guys feeling with starting off and talking about overall opinions, growth, where we think it also sits in terms? I feel like there's going to be a limited amount of information, but why don't we start off on the Musa, getting headfirst into this? Where do we feel like Musa is in the play?
We got Vert. He's our resident expert Musa.
That's a Musa main. Let me jump in here.
Okay.
As a Musa main. The lack of iframes, first of all, disgusting, dude. I mean, you have classes like Sork, and so if we could just get that cranked up over here, the damage and the animations could be a little faster. I mean, in all reality, the Musa, I feel like overall is a very strong class right now.
You just re-rolled to it. Like, how do you got 800 skill points on it. You're level 58 on it right now.
Okay, 59 with 1300.
With 1300. Oh wow, you made some progress yesterday.
Yes.
So like my question to you right now is like, how do you feel as let's say a newer Musa going into the class?
I mean, it feels smooth, to be honest. There's some things that are, a little bit more clunky than Meiwa, but overall I just feel like the class is a better Meiwa right now, and I think it's in a very good place.
Interesting to hear.
I don't know. What do you guys think of it?
I mean, I'm going to give my opinion short. I'm just going to quickly chime in here by saying this class seems very in and out. It seems like as a glass cannon type, it doesn't have too many opportunities to deal in the super armor trade fights unless they have a lot of gear. I'm not sure how they stack in evasion, so I'm going to be interested to hear other opinions here in a second. But large scale, it seems like they're a more viable choice over Meiwa, and that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, they're definitely better than Meiwa for large scale, but for how meta is now, where like you'll die in super armor a lot quicker, I don't feel like Musa's as strong as it used to be. Like when you look at top siege guilds, you'll never see Musa's usually like in the top 5 ever anymore. At least
Wait, what?
I don't notice.
What?
What?
NA is a weird place, dude.
Musa is like one of the top KD classes in the entire game.
Well, I mean,
right now.
at least on NA, I haven't seen like anyone like outperform people. They just die so fast in their super armors that I never usually see anything.
They're
still like really
something just spilled on my end, so I'm gonna step away just for a second to clean it up. So I'm gonna let you guys take over here. Keep going.
They're still super good with large scale because they're in and out, but like even like high DP fucking like super geared Musas will not perform as strong as other classes. I feel like.
It depends a lot on the fight.
It's not their role too, but yeah, like castle sieges and stuff, like they're literally like nearly useless.
What do you think about that? I don't know about that either.
What?
Those traps. Like, what do you think about?
I mean, how would? Well, I mean, like
like
support playing like out of traps and stuff, they're pretty good, but like, I just don't see them making a big impact as they used to. I feel like they used to do a lot better.
Well,
they're doing as big an impact as Witch Wizard, probably not, but I think
what class
they're the best.
Well, I mean, they're still really good.
Role
Like, they're still good. Yeah, I mean, like their role's like pretty niche, but yeah, they're still really good at their role. But I just don't think like how they used to be. I remember like renowned days where everyone would literally run Musa. It'd be ridiculous. Like Kyoto would run Musa and everything. Just like a shadow of their former self, I feel, but still super strong, but just nowhere near what they used to be.
Yeah, like I personally think they're still pretty good in Siege in a lot of forms, because Castle Sieges, defense-wise, they're not going to frag out, but they still play a really, really important role as like the flex team in the back for, you know, catching the Vs. And then actually attacking a base, we have Mooses that frag out attacking castles all the time. And then very specific fights where it's like very open field oriented. Like from BR's perspective, we don't have a lot of witches wizards, and so a lot of our classes are like, you know, Zerg flex oriented type classes. And in open field, Musas, Sorks, and Ninjas, they're the ones that are really fragging the hardest, because they can kind of get in, get those picks, and get out while still being, you know, relatively
I guess it just depends
safe,
who
you
like
know?
they're fighting to, but like if they're like get collapsed on really fast, I feel like they could die really quickly.
But any class in the game can die really fast if it's collapsed on, unless you're a Sork.
Yeah,
Like,
but I mean,
they
they're like
have the Moosers from the only classes as the potential to completely escape a fight. Like what you're saying is that if they get collapsed on by people, that's fine. Any class in the game can like get insta killed if they get collapsed on. But Mooser and like Mayweather, for example, can get out of fights super quickly.
Well, they can get out pretty quickly with their super armors, but like just the fact that they're still a super armor class now without renowned days, I feel like they can't do it as hard as they used to. Like, well, like if it's like a 1v3, like 1v4 situation, like they can definitely still dictate the fight like really easily. But I just don't see them doing like insanely well. I mean, they're like their role that they play is super good, but
would you say in the upper half or the lower half of like for Node Wars?
I think like Node Wars for sure. Though I feel like they're like super good at Node Wars, but like in their siege role, I feel like they're about like midway to upper part. I mean, for their role at least, but
okay, what do you classify as weak on Musa? Like, what specifically would you classify like what lets Musa down?
Well, I feel like their engages aren't like as well as they should be. Like for attacking wise, I'm like they can like poke and prod and whatnot, and then like below the belt and all that stuff. But
that bam arrow shot can 3/4 my health.
They're
330.
Yeah, arrow shot's really good too. Yeah,
ridiculous.
But I guess it just depends who they fight with that too. I mean, if they're gonna one shot you with it, it's gonna be pretty fucking broken. But
yeah, but Musa, in my opinion, is just really.
I just never see.
Bipolar.
Yeah, bipolar. Yeah, you can call it that. Yeah,
It's like if you don't have enough gear, you just kind of do nothing, and if you have too much gear, all of a sudden you just walk over everything.
I think also we may be looking too hard. I feel Musa's in a pretty good spot. I mean, it is tough getting in. There's a lot of damage right now, but I don't feel like Musa's S tier, but definitely don't feel it's a B tier or anything lower than that. I feel like it's strong.
Yeah, I feel like
definitely strong.
With the AP meta,
not like
right?
overtuned.
Like a full AP meta definitely hurts Musa, because all that super armor means a lot less because you just get blasted through it anyway, right? So with like if there was like lower tier Node Wars potentially, right, then that super armor means a lot more because you can kind of eat more damage, so to speak, right?
Yeah, lower tier Node Wars. That's all I'm doing right now. There's less. There's not really ball pushes. You know, there may be like a 5v5, and so they can just zip around and stub arrow and clean people up.
Yeah, you left Node Wars a lot. Mooses are like big trouble in smaller Node Wars for sure. Yeah. I don't do Siege, so I can't comment on.
You'll have to correct me, but I'm pretty sure Musa is like one of the only classes in the game that has the highest scaling in PvP damage.
Yep, that was why they were so strong with Renown, because everyone else got tankier, but it didn't fucking matter.
Yes, so if the current AP meta right now, Musa is still dominating because of how much damage they have and how well they scale.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. What you guys keep saying, well, Musa can't really trade or take a lot of damage like that. That would be the most broken shit in the fucking game if Musa could do that. Like, it's one of the most mobile class in the game with one of the highest PvP damage scalings in the game. They're not meant to take damage. They're meant to basically dash in, dash out, and what the fuck, wrecked you in a second. That's their role, and they do it arguably the best in the game as a skirmisher class. We can agree that that's their role. I don't think. I mean, I think they're great.
I wouldn't expect them to be able to absorb damage either.
For what they do, yeah, I think they're like definitely the best class, like role-based class. They're definitely the best one, in my opinion.
I'm also pretty sure Musa has a really high evasion scaling as well. So when they're running these game scaling builds, Musa, and I think I can't remember what the other one is, but Musa's pretty up there. So the tankier, like the better gear you get on Musa, obviously your damage is scaling absurdly high because of its like actual its E-buff, for example, as well is super strong. But the base damage on their abilities are really high. It also remains in protection. If you know how to play Musa, you can essentially remain in protection while you're killing everyone. Obviously, it's super armor versus forward guard, but when you're at that point where you're ahead of gear and you're taking those breakpoints of DR and passing certain breakpoints of evasion, then you're essentially a completely unstoppable killing machine.
In certain 1v1 matchups, they're actually really hard to trade with.
Like,
so I think overall,
are we keeping the conversation
like,
just to PvP, or are we going to also talk about PvE?
PvE as well,
Everything,
yeah.
Like scaling. Since we don't have Musa mains in the room.
So for PvE, I think it's I think it's very, very interesting for Musa's PvE because at like lower AP, he can't take advantage of his movement speed, right? And so he kind of falls behind a lot of our classes and feels really weak. And then as he gets more and more AP, he can take advantage of his movement speed, and he goes from like this bottom tier scum feeder to like the best grinder at every grind spot when he has enough AP for it.
Wait, what?
Not the best. He's like an okay grinder. Like some like Monchums, he's like the king of. But then like end game, he's like okay. I think he's somewhere in the middle, maybe above middle.
Like, I guess like, an example of this, like if you're like low AP, right? Gahaz, we'll say. Then
Musa would be god tier at places like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying that basically that scales. Like the only reason we think that he's not good at end game is because we don't have enough AP yet for him to be fully utilized. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying.
Like the same numbers as Archer, or gets close to it in Aukman, like level wise, like gear wise. Pretty sure like at the high end.
Musa struggles a little bit early on in like, let's just say history, but then once it does get high AP, it's quite solid. It's not a Mystic or a Valk, but it's still very competitive. But yes, for example, a Mewa would walk into history earlier than a Musa would, but that's okay because Musas can grind Aukman like cleaner.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think 245 Archer would absolutely destroy Musa.
Archer destroys everything.
Well, I'm saying at Aukman, not give enough AP, the Musa actually can keep up with the Archer at super high AP values in Aukman, because at that point he starts catching up because of the movement speed, which I think is interesting. I think that's I think it's very different than the majority of our classes. Just raw AP equals.
I don't really think there's a point talking about Musa's PvE though, because it's just fine. I don't think any Moose is going to come up to you and be like, PvE sucks. You know?
I honestly think everything is pretty fine about Musa. I wouldn't necessarily have any gripes about it.
I would say
I'm a striker, but I have zero gripes with Musa. I just think they're in just a strong position as a choice as a whole.
Balances them perfectly. Like the meta, I feel like it balances the class perfectly for how it is.
And then you can awaken the class again by giving it a Doom Horse, so there's really no problem with that.
I think the only flaw or major flaw Musa has, if I recall correctly, is its accuracy. Like if you're a pure evasion kind of build, I don't think they can shred you very well because they have.
This is true of all classes that have evasion. They're good at evasion. They need accuracy, right? So like if you look at a ninja, he does very well with an evasion build, but also needs a lot of accuracy. Look at Lon, very good with evasion build, but also needs accuracy. Sork can do the same thing, but it's just like it's sort of like a weakness of any class that's good with evasion also needs to have extra accuracy to compensate.
Except Mewa. I think Mewa does pretty good with evasion builds, and then they have
they do. They just sticky snowflake and beat you up. Trust me, I know. I run evasion. There's one of my guild. He knocks me down, and it does like I'm not even wearing evasion against them.
Yeah, let's nerf Mewas.
Okay.
I don't think that's the way we want to go there.
Well, in terms of just like everything else, do we have anything left to contribute on this class?
If anything, I would say their crosscut needs a small buff, and then this doesn't be a quality of life. And for PvE, and then that would make it where the class would have better sustained damage for people with lower skill levels, because most people that are lower skill levels, they just spam crosscut because they don't know any better.
Yeah.
And at high tier, it doesn't really matter because like high tier, they don't use those abilities anyway unless it's a fill damage, right? And so that doesn't matter as much for high end grinding.
Dude, fuck it. Let's just give him a grab.
I think
Musa's had a grab in pre-development.
There's
really?
There's a data mine video of them grabbing. It's an old thing.
Oh my god, I never seen this.
Three uppercut
coming back in
aerial chop thing.
Yikes. What could have been?
I think the only thing that really needs changing on Musa is the E buff needs to be fixed to not remove the super armor on crosscut. That's a bug problem with the class, but I don't think it needs any changes anywhere else.
Now, this is something that would be like more of a quality of life thing to make the class more fun. And I was curious what more people would have more experience potentially than me and PvP would think about this. the idea I had was it's really fun to dash around on Musa, but you run out of stamina, and they a while back made it where it costs more stamina to dash around. And I think a quality of life change, which could give you the best of both worlds, which would be the balance and the fun in PvE, would be to make it where his dash costs half as much, but when you engage in PvP for the next so many seconds, it would double the cost of the dash. So when you're engaged with Musa, then you're committed to the fight, meaning that you can't run away and just heal yourself back up. And so a good Musa would choose when to fight and when not to fight.
But
and in PvE, you can just dash as much as you want.
Like a lot of Musas now can do a kite potential. Like they have a lot of you can play Musa completely like around stub arrow engage. So if you like make this thing so they can like stub arrow engage with one really, really cheap dash, and if they ever get a CC on you, they can completely disengage afterwards. I don't know if that's like the best mindset. I think right now its dash is in the best place. I think right now it's in the best place for Musa. I don't think anything needs changing other than obviously the fix that Anfield sudden e-buff. But other than that, I think Musa right now is in a solid place.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more that needs changing other than like anything about Musa.
Yeah.
Like as maybe we talk about something else like that in the future, but there's so many other classes that need attention first, really.
Yeah. I was just curious what you guys thought about it because it was an idea I had, and I think having one mindset is not necessarily best, so I just want to bounce it off you guys.
Well, I'm gonna get shaky in here in a little bit, and we can rewind this back to see if he's got any more in-depth opinion. Just because I trust like someone who just also played the class for so long and seeing what they also have to say. Not saying that I don't trust what you've said already, of course. That everyone's contributed.
Is that the $5 bill a week Musa?
Yes, we're gonna run to something else here, and we'll come back to Musa here in just a bit. Does anyone have a class that they have a gripe on? I want to know if there's something that like someone takes this class personally. We haven't covered it yet.
Shy.
PvE.
How long
Shy in
do you
PvE.
Ban Shy from RBF, please.
Shy in PvE. Okay, let's talk about the new class that released, Shy. We've got a lot. I'm sure we've got some large scale and small scale opinions as well. Is there anyone who's been? No one here mains Shy right now. At the current point.
Well, I have a 61, but it doesn't really count.
I think I have like 3 or 4 actually main Shies in my guild.
Okay. So what do we have to contribute? We've said Shy PvE needs to be changed. What's going on with Shy PvE? I mean, I hear they're amazing in Sakraya.
So their twirl has like I think it's a 6 HP hit heal, but it does like 70 hits. So you can recharge 93. Like thousands. It does an insane amount. You can heal like thousands of HP. So like that alone is kind of ridiculous. And then that's not then factoring that the damage is also ludicrous. And it has so many CCs in PvP. It's like I don't know where you want to start. It's like I just feel like I've been telling my chat, it's like I feel like they're rushed and then they just buffed everything and said we got to move on to Ocean Update or whatever,
I feel like once they trigger the PvP bonus damage, like from the reduction from 95 to like 50, I was like, oh my god, this class is just purely broken now. It's like
I kind of feel like Shy sort of lost their identity a little bit. When they originally were talking about releasing the class, it was supposed to be this support class that doesn't necessarily grind well. It's supposed to be a life skiller. It gives you some professional stats off the start. It's very support oriented. And then that quickly sort of switch to being the easiest and best grinder in the entire game, and also just pretty ridiculous overall in PvP wise. Like I don't feel like it's broken PvP wise personally, but I do think that it kind of lacks an S block. I think that the class should probably have an S block on it because you're really kind of a sitting duck as a Shy, and I'd also really love to see something done with allowing some sort of AP scaling with the class. Like I feel like having one build where you have to build DP only in PvP and then have no ability to grind if that's your focus, or you always have to build 2 sets, which I would much rather see them have some sort of AP scaling. So maybe instead of just these cancer evasion Shies, we maybe see a class that has stronger buffs if it scales with AP, but it also dies really easily. I don't know.
League does an interesting way. They get more AP and then it makes like your shield last longer or your heal is stronger or whatever.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I guess we can argue regarding Shy's PvE is if it's obviously the Shy is the only class that has so many hits on abilities. So is that like a problem just in general? Like you could easily adjust Shy, increase the percent damage on her abilities, but reduce the amount of hits, and that would nullify the amount of impact she would actually have as a PvE grind class. Like, for example, heavy evasion mobs, obviously, if you hit once versus hitting like 90 times, it's the reason why she's able to grind so efficiently. So would you rather have her increase damage percent on those and reduce hits and make her more viable in PvE in regards to balanced?
Well, either they have to do what's with every other class, or they have to take into close consideration for it being a unique class with so many hits, they have to balance it differently with accuracy and AP scaling and everything, which I don't think they're doing. I think they just slapped the numbers on there and didn't think about the consequences of making it unique that way.
Yeah, I mean, they said themselves that Shy is an experimental class, essentially. So what I'm guessing that they're doing is they're testing how hit like fully functions against the mobs and stuff like that in terms of grinding. So you obviously know that Shy is like super, super good right now in terms of grinding. That's because of these like additions that they have to like the skill add-ons. Like for some reason, they give Shy crazy, crazy strong skill add-ons. Like the massive amounts of crit, it's like 30% crit on R&B or something like that as well. So it's very strong.
What's going to be scary is when they release the what's the name of that weapon that gives you more main hand damage but sacrifices weight? Yeah, Catan weapon. Shy's it doesn't work on Shy? Okay, I was going to say that would be a scary world if, you know, they're already that good in Reawaken and all of a sudden.
Do they scale with anything well in particular? Like I see Divios going with evasion, but he's an evasion. He has an evasion meme himself as well, but do they passively scale with DR evasion well?
They're pretty squishy. The only way that they're not squishy is that they self-buff and heals.
I see.
And that they don't
self-buff and heal in a huge HP pool.
My guess is that they're going to scale very, very well with DR because of their high HP pool. With evasion, it doesn't really help the same way. So I think with the HP pool, I think DR is a better combo, but I don't think inherently they have like any bonus to one side or the other.
So I have Shies in my guild just raising both. They don't commit to one or the other. They actually raise both, and they actually live a lot longer because they're raising both.
Because the general consensus is that Shy is Shy is an excessively good PvE grinder, and that's because of its hits, and maybe the hits need to be brought down a little bit and just tested with to see if it could be less excessive than it is right now, right?
But can we do the hits like just barely? I feel like BDO swings the pendulum so hard. It's like either something's good or something's just not even worth playing. It's rare that classes get like a subtle touch instead of just big slam.
I mean, it seems pretty clear they made their PvE so strong for the purpose of it's a class that literally cannot defend its grind spot.
True,
that's the way I looked at it.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't really bother. PvE doesn't bother
me. And like, I also agree with what Choice said with the fact that it's potentially lost its identity because, you know, that's kind of what I thought of it as when I first heard of it as, oh, it's going to be the support role. It's going to play this role as a support role. It's going to be support, and that when it makes me think of that, and it has all these buffs, and you know, if it had AP buffs that applied to, you know, more team based moments, then it makes sense that it would be a terrible duelist. It makes sense that it would be an okay grinder, you know, but I do think every class should be on some sort of level with everyone else in case someone wants to main that class. But like naturally that class kind of shouldn't be a good duelist, though you should be able to fight for your spot. So it's like there's just such a fine balance between the needs and the wants, and if people actually want to main it, I completely understand. It's just,
this is what I hear though. It's like I've been talking to people and they say 245 Kudum on a Shy can go in history and farm better than 269 Mystic. And Mystic is the second best grinder in Histria.
You don't even need an awakening weapon.
I don't know. That sounds like a slight tall tale to me.
That's a little much.
Oh, I can buy a slight. I mean, that sounds like a
for a
tall
long
tale.
time. That sounds nothing like Mystic. The reason why Mystic's so strong is because you can perma CC history mobs, so you constantly have back attack. Shy can't keep the same back attack, like a level of perma back attacks.
Well, the reason being is not only for their multiple hits, but they also have they can reduce DR by 10%. It's the only class that has anything like that, and also evasion by 10%. And
those mobs have like 400, 300 DR, so 10% like 30 instead of 20 and 10 like every other class.
But
and again, evasion at the same time.
Ability or 7 ability mobs hit history.
So that's what I'm hearing. I mean, I think it's too early for us like to making conclusions based on speculation like that, right?
I mean, it is a newer class.
The fact that it took Lon like a whole year for you to figure out it was good in PvE, and now it's like Shy's out and we're already like speculating being like way overpowered is you know, like what we're going to find out like 6 months from now, like. You know,
yeah,
like,
I think it's okay to take a lighter approach in consideration to it based on like just hearing feedback, what other people say, because I think a lot of us anticipate the class is eventually gonna get. It happens to every new class. It's the new class syndrome, is of what I call it, anyways. You know, it's only a matter of time before Archer gets nerfed in the sense, and they're getting like some work done to them. It's only a matter of time before these concerns that are given attention. But I also feel like, you know, I completely agree with you with these rushed ideas and in terms of trying to get different content out because they're on like some sort of schedule. I mean, and I always go back to look at Star's End. Like, what fucking grind spot gets thrown into a game and is still missing items that need to be
the
there?
accessory.
Yeah, it just makes no fucking sense to me. So, you know, I believe I'm with you when you say that as well.
Like, and if you look at Archer, like the same strategy was done with Archer. Like, they have 2 good abilities. In the class, if it was properly balanced, could be very interesting and dynamic and have lots of different buffs, nerfs, and like the mobs and everything. But it has 2 good abilities, and that's it. So the rest of the class is garbage. You could just release Archer with 2 abilities, and like those 2 abilities would be the primary damage for the class.
I mean, Archer's really strong right now, right? Like it's super strong. I wouldn't really compare that to Shy, personally, but
let's just we're going in circles on the Shy. Like, let's just talk about the Shy in PvP because I think that's more interesting right now than the PvE.
Yeah, let's move to large scale too here as well.
So, what do you guys think about the PA? Because I think that what should have been done is Wizards and Witches should have lost their PA and been given a self PA, and that PA be moved to the Shy. Because I think the current mechanic with the Shy is really toxic. Blocking is far too strong, and the desync in the game is. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe you guys think that it's
more visible too, because it's like nearly invisible when you can't even see the Shy bubble. Should be like something like Stork's ult, where you can visibly see it even when you have effects off.
You need those Star Wars force shields and shit.
Yeah.
I feel like the bubble on Shy is super strong. Like whenever you get caught in that, like you're dead. You're just gone.
But it is 5 seconds every 5 minutes, so that's a very long cooldown.
I do agree with the sentiment that I feel like other support type classes should have been reduced in their support capabilities, and then Shy should have filled in that gap. I do agree with that.
But do you feel like because of how long it can sometimes take to set up a proper push through a castle choke, that cooldown doesn't matter that much if you just even have 2 Shies?
I mean, have we seen anyone start stacking Shies yet in terms of PvP? Like,
I've seen at least one beam.
So I mean, that's the question, because I mean, when you stack PAs and rotate them, it's pretty overpowered. So I've never seen Shies do it personally as yet, but I could imagine it can be really annoying.
It's just a poorly designed ability. You rubber band on it. It's the most stupidest thing.
Yeah, we had one. Sharks and I were. He was sprinting on his horse, and I put up a bubble, and I mean, I did get one a couple of times where like he was just caught in it, and that's true. Like they do just straight rubber band.
Manup did that a lot on Siege against Corrupt when I was working for them. They'd by Golden Room, Corrupt would V from the second from like the inner spawn, and they'd V straight to Golden Room, and then a Shy would bubble, and they literally rubber band in their Vs.
Oh, interesting.
I think the original purpose of that bubble, like in my mind, the original purpose is like protect your allies beneath the bubble. That is my thought that they were going for with this, and it just quickly turned into body blocking an entire guild in a choke.
They literally wasted their entire V when they tried to push through Golden Room, and then you just see all of Corrupt spawning right in front of the Shy, and they just get murdered.
Interesting idea, but for a game like this, it can't be implemented correctly.
Yeah.
Desync and everything, it doesn't work. So they should completely redesign to something else. I have no idea what it is. Give Shy an S block as much as I'd hate them having an S block.
Just make it like a healing. Make like a healing or like a healing pool, like most of MMOs. You stay in that area, you're just getting pumped with heals.
Yeah, you make a hero
or only imagine it was meant for some kind of castle fight.
You can make like a huge build wall or something.
I mean, we talked about last week when you guys were talking about the PA, right? And like doing like a DP buff or whatever. Like they could do that on the bubble too. I just wish it wasn't so like laggy and gimmicky when you get inside of it. Like even as a Sork, like I can't iframe out. Like I just bounce around.
Speaking of not being able to get out, Mystics suck. You should be able to iframe out of. I agree with that too.
100% you should be.
You can iframe it, by the way. You can iframe if you have 2 iframes at chain.
It depends on your class. Like some classes don't have an iframe where you actually jump out of the vacuum.
Get sucked out of mid iframe and teleport. I don't know how that even works.
Maybe on NA servers have an issue, but if you on EU, if you do two, for example, a DK can iframe out of it. If they do Dusk and then the follow up, they get out of the vacuum.
When I played Kuno, it was easy because I could just block jump out of it. But on Sork, man, like if they start sucking me, like I can't get out. I'm stuck. I'm screwed.
I mean, what you're hoping for out of that vacuum, if a Mystic does it, you're trying to iframe the grab, right? But if they're smart, you'll just get masked. So it doesn't even.
Okay, back on topic. Back to Shy.
Yeah, that's
large scale PvP. Shy.
My problem with Shy is the bongos. Bongos and the fact that they can have a stiff up for that long, and it's just a stiff that just goes on and on and on and on until they're out of stamina. I think is that needs to be looked at.
I did not realize that was a thing.
It is stamina based, yeah. But the thing about it that I think is the broken part is they can bongo, use a like 10 stamina, walk a couple steps, bongo again. There's like no cooldown on the ability. It's all stamina based. And so if there was maybe a cooldown at the start of it, so maybe you use it and you have to wait 15 seconds, or else you just continue to bongo, and when you move, you lose it. Some kind of a cooldown, you know.
I thought they couldn't cancel out of a bongo.
Wouldn't a simple solution to that just be every time you stun somebody with the ability, you lose stamina, so then it just caps out that way?
Well, the point he's trying to make is that it should have a cooldown, so you can't just spam it.
So my chat's telling me it's a 6-second cooldown. So you can. That's a pretty low cooldown. Like it's virtually nothing.
Hold it for 6 seconds, consume stamina, get it back. You could really,
Like I think like if you used it and then you CC'd 6 people, and then every person you CC takes off 10% of your stamina, right? Like you would just be out, and then you wouldn't be able to use it again.
But that would nullify the point of the ability, though.
Yeah. The reason it's strong is for the group fights. I don't know. I honestly don't think the bongos are that bad. Low-key, the buffs seem so much more OP than me, but thank God there are barely any Shies that play this game. Yeah. 1 or 2 Shies who know what they're doing could absolutely dominate a massive fight. And if that potential is there, that makes you a strong class for large fight. I don't even think it's the bongos that makes that potential. You could literally remove the bongo. But I think if the bongos make sense, they don't really have much in the way of offensive capabilities other than that. Sure, it kind of sucks. I think for some reason you should be able to get immune to them at some point. You shouldn't literally be stiffened for like 5 seconds.
No. Then you get stiffened again walking out of it.
So there should be some immunity there. It's another weird design with how they made like an exception to their rules, which I hate exceptions to rules like that, like the down smash and things like that.
Oh, also the coding factor that makes it way more complicated too, like more bugs and stuff.
I like the idea of the bongos though, generally. Maybe a little bit of tweaks, but I don't even think it's really what makes them.
I mean, at the moment
thank God that no one plays them.
I mean, at the moment we like you wanting to take away stuff from a class that doesn't like provide like damage. Well, the class itself provides like CC and buffs and stuff like that. I agree with Hunter. I think the buffs for the class itself are insanely strong, much more stronger than like the bongos.
Also, rightfully so. But I've always been scared about. They literally came out a long time ago. Like, we're not having support classes in this game. There might be some support abilities here or there, but the game is not designed for it. Then a fucking couple months ago, they're like, just kidding. We're gonna try it. Generally, I hate the idea of having a support class in this game for the exact reason they said 2 years ago it was a bad idea. The game's not designed for it. Now that we're here, though, I mean, if it's going to be a support class, the buffs should be strong. Everything should be strong, really. If you're a support class, the way you balance a support class in most MMOs that at least had the holy triumvirate is the support classes tended to be technically stronger than everybody else. It's the only way you're going to get someone to play it.
To complement everyone else, yeah.
Exactly. It's the only way. And any game, any MMO I ever played with PvP wise that ever had a weak support structure, like where it was just like kind of garbage. 1, it was awful. 2, nobody played the support classes.
Yep.
So, like no one plays Shy anyway right now. So until I'm not really worried about Shy in general. I think it's interesting. If I could have avoided having them at all, I would have preferred that. But now that they're here, it is what it is. Maybe just fix the Q bubble or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's really only the rubber banding for me.
It's such poorly designed for this game, and the net code for this game just doesn't handle it. Like you shouldn't rubber band off of just trying to walk through it.
No, it should
be
a fucking
I should
wall.
be able to walk or shift dash through it, but I rubber band for 5 seconds. It's ridiculous.
For me, it's either or. Be stuck in it, have an option of a certain way of getting out of it, but in terms of like losing all control until it's just done.
Shouldn't nullify these either.
Divios said something in chat. He said bongos and bubble are currently 90% of Shy gameplay PvP. He said, give me ways to survive, whether it be better heals, S block, any movement skill, or self DP evasion buffs.
We gotta get Divios in here. Tell
That's what I was saying.
Divios, you can hear me. Send me a DM on Discord.
Yeah, if you can make like a lot of MMOs, they have like a cast pool or a circle or something you just drop on the ground. That as long as you're in that circle for the next 8, 12, 10, 15 seconds, you're getting ticked. Instead of having the bubble be so desync, you just have it be, a healing pool where you can just back up, sit in the push.
Let's say healing pool. I'd be totally down for a super armor aura.
Or yeah, that or like, Guild Wars 2, you can give a stability buff, which is basically a super armor buff you can wear. Everything you have super armor for the next 10 seconds or something.
Because like Diablo 3 did that. They had like the monk would place little auras on the ground. If you were stepping on the aura, a good player would step on the aura and then do their job, and a bad player would not be on it. So then it's skill based both for the Shy to place it properly and for players to be on the correct location. I like that idea.
But he is right. Most of what Shy does is the bongos.
It wasn't unpredictable. Divios is saying, like, I will agree with that too. Just looking at the entirety of the kit that Shy has, it's got a lot of long cooldowns. All their heals are on long cooldown. Their play dead things on a long cooldown. Their bubble is, and having those just couple of abilities like the bongos, and I think their buffs are fine appropriately for how long they are, like having 40-second, 50-second cooldowns, whatever they might be. But there's the fact that the bongos are just super. It's really only two things. It's the fact that you rubber band in the bubble, and it's that the bongos have just too short of a cooldown. Given that you can play those bongos for literally 30 seconds, like why is the cooldown 6 is my thought.
All right, well, the biggest problem is I've played like DP builds from like 3 years, and of all the ones I've played, Shy is easily the squishiest one, but it's super impactful because Bubble is the most insane siege ability in the entire game, and Bongos being able to basically do it forever is insane. But I agree with that. The thing is, Shy has these two abilities that you've probably never heard of, never seen once ever, because they each take about 4 seconds to go off and don't really do anything, and they're like the other two drum abilities. Both those abilities are basically worthless and don't do anything. Also, Shy has no S block, and I have one heal apart from the heal over time. I have one heal on a 1.5-minute cooldown. The heals for less than heals are the same basically as one pump of Lighthouse, and Lighthouse is 30-second cooldown. And yeah, I wish I would get away from just bubbling and drumming and go into being able to actually do more things.
Do you feel like the heals are really lackluster for the class? Because I was kind of surprised it wasn't. It just seems so like Wizards and Witches heals are far more effective, and that's
the heals are
there's
awful.
Percentage.
Yeah, and that makes no sense.
Yeah, and I also have the highest HP pool in the game, so I'm sitting around with 7,500 health, and I'm like, oh, I can heal for 2,000 every 1.5 minutes. It's just it's not very good.
Yeah, and then you just get a Witcher Wizard next to you, and it's like, oh, thanks for the full health.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And the mobility is terrible, right?
Probably should just change it to be % based.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Witch and Wizard. 2K is, I guess, kind of weak. That heal over time is dope as fuck.
I know this sounds very silly, but Satya, can you count down quickly from 10 for me? I just got to adjust your volume.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
Perfect.
4, 3.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that, guys.
I think the mobility is really bad.
Yeah, the mobility is the worst thing ever. It's
and without the S block,
it's like playing
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like playing Witcher Wizard.
I'm surprised to hear that Shy doesn't have an S block. I didn't know that.
They had no block of anything. They have one block, and it's the really short one in Pre-Awakening.
They deserve the S block, but just to play the other side of the coin a little bit, Shy is almost always going to be a full DP character, and they should be able to be killed. So you can't give them everything. You can't give them super high mobility blocks, things like that, or literally a full DP Shy will never die. With that said, an S block is more than fair, and they probably deserve it, because otherwise they literally just stand there like idiots. I hate the mechanic of S block anyway, but they deserve a block, so it should be an S block.
One thing that people probably don't know also, as soon as you cast any drum skill, whether it be the 2 ones that you probably never seen or the one that the sip and spam basically. As soon as you want to get out of drums, there's no actual good way to get out. There's like you have to use, like you have to like dash back and bubble, or you can like dash back and play dead. Apart from that, there's no real good like safe way to get out of drums. You're just gonna guarantee as soon as you stop drumming, you're falling over.
Well, I mean, there has to be a hole somewhere, right? Like it can't just be fully protected all the time.
Nothing's protected apart from the standing there drumming.
Yeah, I mean that's usually what a Shy is doing. They're just sitting there and drumming right now, so that's the problem.
Buff me, idiot.
What was the main concern? The bubble, just the bubble and
bubble
the,
rubber banding.
Bubble, in my opinion, should be like a physical wall. It should be like it should just like I think it should just be a physical wall that like, oh, they pop it, it's like some like vine wall or something. Just like, oh, look,
and
it's a bubble. Everyone,
lo and behold, gets stuck in it. That should just be a cool feeling. It's like, gotcha, motherfucker! Quick, everyone get this guy. Like that should be a dope feeling capturing somebody.
Yeah, it's a game engine problem.
I don't think
detection is just garbage.
No, I know.
That's why it wouldn't be doable.
Not to come in late on this, but
of course.
Did you bring up the fact that people can bubble people in node wars and sieges without being a participant?
Yep.
Oh my god!
Yes,
that wasn't mentioned.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so you could get Shies from random guilds or whatever. They could come in, run straight into an enemy wall and bubble them. I mean, it's a thing that it needs to be changed, right?
Holy shit!
It's one of those
really
things
bad
when you publicize it.
Can't wait for Siege this Saturday.
I know it's very bad, very very bad. But I think the bubble definitely needs to be changed. I agree. The heals, yeah, completely lackluster. The mobility, I think, same sort of feeling about it as you, Hunter, and that an S block would just help a lot more with it, right?
The S block makes more sense, but still makes them vulnerable.
Yeah,
feel like a little more fair. And giving them like a super good dash.
I actually don't mind the bongos myself, obviously. But they have nothing else to do, right? They buff you, then they stand there, or they position themselves in bongo. Like, unless you give us something else to use or to do.
Yeah, that's what I was saying with the other drum. Make the other drum skills better and make bongos worse. Make bongos like a 12-second cooldown, but make the other abilities not worse. Make the other abilities really good too.
So
like
spread it out a bit more.
The fire one, or whatever.
Yeah, make like the fire one and the earthquake one. If you made those two, because the problem with those abilities, like you press the button, you actually have to like. You pull it out, you pull out the bongos, and then you drum like for 2 seconds, and then the ability goes out. Like if it just like you press the button and like you pull down the bongos and it went, it'd be fine. It's just really really slow and bad because of it.
Now I want to take a. Do we feel confident and comfortable with everything that we've expressed on Shy?
I think we've covered a lot.
Yes, I agree. I want to take a second just to take one step backwards, just because Shaky stepped in the room. We just talked about the Musa. I just want to hear in short if there's any pros and cons with where Musa currently stands, how you feel they scale in gear, how you feel like they stand in large scale. I'll give the floor to you. People are can have an opportunity to contribute a little bit. I want to try to keep this topic just minimal since we've already covered it, but I want to give you a chance to speak from a Musa main perspective.
Okay, well, hopefully I don't like go over anything you guys have already talked about, but the only thing I can say is the bow reset is a really big con right now. So if you use the bow during a cooldown, it just resets. So that's really annoying. Other than that, the class is obviously really weak at low gear, but at higher gear becomes a lot better. So that'd be the only issue I'd say. Other than that, I think the class is really good for grinding, and it's definitely really good at high-end PvP. I think Musa right now is in a solid spot. It really doesn't need to be touched, only fix the bugs with it. So the bow reset, and then I would say the last thing would be the E-buff. The E-buff on Musa right now, if you use it, crosscut permanently will lose SA for 30 seconds. So basically you lose crosscut and backflow for 30 seconds. So it's pretty much the worst E-buff in the game. Before they changed it, it was a perma SA. So all I'd really change on it is fix the bow reset, and obviously I would say fix the fact that it's losing perma SA. That's pretty much about it.
That's pretty much all we covered too. I'm glad to know that we really didn't miss much. Awesome.
I don't think it needs to be buffed anything or nerfed. Just I would say probably fix the fact that it's really bad at low gear and just the bugs. That's it.
Now, we talk about the Shy, we talk about the support, we talk about a lolly class. Let's talk about another lolly class. I don't feel like we don't have too many people in the room, but we've had someone who has mained Tamer. And I want to know what thoughts and opinions we have in the room for where Tamer currently stands. I'd love to know why some of you guys rolled off the class and where you think the class currently stands and what would it take for you guys to also go back.
100% buff!
Because it sounds like in PvP, it sounds like small scale, there's still some of the best duelists in the game. That's my perspective. But it seems like they need PvE love. Like, would I be wrong in saying they just need PvE love, though? I don't know how they fare in large scale.
Yes. I would say their PvE still trash. Like, playing with like 300 actions per minute is just ridiculous. Trying to like PvP more.
I mean, one of the main problems with Tamer right now is in its current state is how squishy it is.
Yeah.
Like right now you have like no impact large scale. Like obviously you have your 100%, which is what everyone focuses around with Tamer. But when you actually like break Tamer apart and you take it piece by piece, outside of the 100%, they're essentially completely irrelevant in regards to getting kills in large scale. Like small scale, obviously you can take small duels here and there. You can skirmish with people because like the Rabam's really nice damage and stuff like that. Like they have a lot of potential in regards to that. But if you ever played Tamer before and you tried to engage in a fight, like there's a reason why Tamers have to engage with V to do 100%. Because if they don't, like for example, the WW is not functioning as proper. Like it doesn't work essentially.
Yeah. Like the biggest problem that I outlined in like a giant feedback thread to PA was basically like if you put everybody at hard cap gear, like Tamer's still just gonna get erased even at like C20, like full 10 armor or whatever. It's kind of dumb.
It has Archer squishiness without the range.
I mean,
yeah, he's got range and the power to go with it. Tamer has to go like up front to somebody, so it's really awful too. And you have like no protection on most things except for like 3 attacks that everybody uses to start something.
So I would like to go back and talk about some of like the earlier things. Like Tamer originally, before AB brackets, was like a lot more balanced in my personal opinion because it was supposed to be a unique class that focused more on DP but still did good damage. And now with an AP meta, all players are incentivized to go for full AP, and then Tamer can't do that and still feel good. And because it all bounced around AP brackets, like Tamer never got the love that it deserved when the AP brackets came out. And like I think that really shows through on almost every front on the class right now. Like everything in PvE feels weird, and in PvP it feels weird.
I feel like the DP thing was early on. I mean, Tamers nowadays have really high DP. It's just they need that large scale love. They're just not protected enough in large scale. I mean, all they can really do is just like Namika said, just spam ults. But at the same time, if they buff Tamer, they have to be very careful because it can very easily become another Sork.
Yeah, it's like Tamer right now doesn't need like really damage increase. Like its damage right now in 1v1s in large scale, for example, its damage is fine. The only problem with Tamer,
it's not damage she needs. She doesn't need damage at all.
Exactly.
Like I play Tamer all the time, so it's like damage isn't the issue. Maybe against PvE a little bit, but
yeah, of course,
like not for PvP.
I think with PvE they need like I think they need like more CC in PvE personally and sustain. I think sustain is a huge problem for Tamer PvE, similar to like Dark Knight, for example, where you have to still jump through potions.
If you have a lot of mobs, it's actually not too bad.
I'm talking like end game grinding areas. Like
I grind at Sakrea, Histria, and Akhman and Star's End. It's not a problem.
So I'm really since curious. You main Sork, right? Like, what do you think they should change on Tamer to help them on large scale? Like, what's your opinion?
Since you main Sork, what should they change on Tamer?
I don't main Sork.
Let me hop in here. As a Musa main. Okay. One of my biggest issues with Tamer, I just want to touch on this real quick, is the pet CCing after they get KD'd. I think the pet should go AFK as soon as they're on the ground. That's my 2 cents on PvP for Tamer.
Yeah, if you CC Tamer, it should CC Hellying basically, and Hellying's like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that was like a big thing when we all had protection. But now the best protection, it's definitely out in the open. That happens so much.
So, I like brainstorming different ideas. I talked to my chat about Tamer, and I played Tamer leveling up to 61, and so not a ton of experience, but the leveling experience on it, I thought like at low levels, like I was jumping on Hellying, I was killing monsters with Hellying. It's like this is really really fun. Like can't wait until I'm like level 60 and like see how like jumping on Helliang works and like how fast I can kill monsters with Helliang, and then like those scales into like abysmal numbers. And I think that'd be really cool if they focus it where you jump on Helliang, you get like a PvE buff, and like the majority of Helliang would be your PvE, and then in PvP, you would jump off Helliang because you get a PvP nerf on Helliang, and Helliang would be like your support when you're off of Helliang.
Is that like the NA version of Helliang? Like Helliang.
I don't know how to say it.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Helliang.
I was just like, what?
Well, I mean, what do you got? Like, do you think that something like that would be interesting for people who play Tamer more? Because I haven't played Tamer enough to have a strong opinion, but I thought it was an interesting idea that they really utilize Helliang properly, I feel like, as you level up.
I mean, it doesn't really have much use.
It's more like an addition, but I wouldn't really like try and make it more dependent.
Yes, that sounds awful. I'm not gonna lie. Like
like if I was dependent on it, then you'd have to like tune it against the AI and not even the class anymore.
Yes,
I think bottom line for Tamer, they should definitely just buff them in PV. And for large scale PvP, like without breaking them, they could just give them some forward guards or super armors. To be fair. So if they got any more iframes, it'd just be another sword at the end of the day.
They have 2 iframes and then the sort of like semi WW iframe that works for some people a lot and others doesn't at all. So
yeah, I mean, fixing some of the base mechanics of Team would also change a lot. Like if WW was a completely reliable iframe, then obviously you can play more around it.
Yeah, and then just 2 skills that are like net capture CC's super armor, but they're pretty like easily spotted.
Yes.
You just have to be careful because that class can spam iframes. So I think iframes right now are strong in the current AP meta, right? So
you can't spam it as well as like Sorks do though.
Yes,
yeah,
iframes.
I've tried to iframe like through people's stuff. I just get evaporated. I'm doing the same thing that other people are doing the same things, and then they going right through it like nothing, and then I'm the one getting deleted doing this identical action.
That's what I'm saying. The issue is that it's not that it's like could be a strong iframe. It's that it's random. Like it seems like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
and that's more the problem rather than it has a functionality you can rely on, right? You know, it's like
desync and lag that causes it to work and not work.
What is the resource the iframe uses? What's the resource the WW iframe uses?
Stamina.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So you just, as long as you have stamina, you can just keep flipping.
Yeah, but it's you can't do it really back to back. There's a gap in between all.
How much stamina does it consume?
I think it's 100 or something like.
So like on your bar, is it like 1, 2, or 3? Like how much?
It's 100 on WW.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the only way you get it back to back is if you're going forward and then to the side.
Because
if you go forward all the time, there's a gap in between.
Yes, it's not a smooth transition. Like Tamer's iframe is not a smooth transition. That's the thing. Like if you take a Sork, for example, a Sork can do some very, very nice like smooth transitions, but Tamer doesn't. There's a like 0.2 seconds or something like that where you can't do another WW.
There's like a hiccup in between for the Tamer. Like you'll always get caught. Sorks will never get caught if you know what you're doing.
Sork has it too, but they have a second ability after their iframe, which is a super armor. And that's why they already caught with the CC. Yeah, only if you hold shift. So like the iframe on Sorceress and Tamer is the same, but there's a second ability after Sorceress's iframe that they can use. That's a super armor, and that's why it's more like reliable for Sorceress.
See, I get what you're saying about knocking Tamers in between the flips. Like you can do that with Sork and any class with a chase ability, even Musa.
Yeah, if you have 6,000 FPS, you can.
If you have 6,000 FPS, then you need hardware pay to win for that to work.
But what I'm saying is, like, the whole desync thing, that's any class right now.
Yeah. That's something I feel like they need to address. It's getting to the point where it's unbearable. Oh, I want to... Well, that's another topic, but...
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
If they all...
All right, what is the best way of, like... All right, for me, like, outside, I don't have a good opinion. What should be buffed to make Tamer more fun and viable in PvE?
For me, I don't know.
Needs a bit more PvE damage, a bit of crit in PvE, better AoE, and less stamina.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's just some of the skills just need higher crit rate on like the skills itself against PvE. Like some of the attacks, like Whiplash, for instance, is like 6 hits, no crit, and just does like nothing. But then when you have your crits up or whatever, it starts deleting mobs at a
So if you add crit, the thing is, then it also affects PvP, right?
No, I meant to make it PvE only.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that.
I think we're utilizing some abilities like Beast Rampage and shit like that as well. Like they've got a lot of like potential that used to be good and stuff like that, and like you could use in grinding and stuff like that, but they're so low damage and low protection and stuff like that.
The grinding kit is really bad in the Awakening, right, Nemeko?
Yeah,
so it's like mostly pre-awakening, so that could use a little bit of love for PvE specifically.
Yeah, it's not PvP.
Not, you know, what we don't want is a Pearl Abyss version of PvE buff where you buff a spin and then it becomes the most busted thing ever in PvP.
Yeah,
you need to make sure it's only done in PvE.
What class spins, dude?
That's why I was really curious, because like we say, all right, buff PvE, but then PA like says, oh, well, let's buff the spin to make it 5 times more powerful or some shit, you know? Like, what would be a meaningful change for PvE? And that's why I was really curious what you guys' feedback were and people who've played it more than me, right?
For
because
me, it's definitely just like crit on some of the like constant damage skills, because everybody just spams the 2 slaps back and forth, but it's not really even that good because you blow all your stamina away too. I actually drain all my stamina grinding. And
yeah, they have
very, very few tamers, or at least I've heard of very few tamers like drain all their stamina while grinding. I'm just flipping and using the techniques to move fast between groups, so it's like wasting attacks in midair just to get some.
Yes, one of the main problems is like a lot of their Awakening kit has low hits and not super high % damages. Like for example, rank 4 Beast Rampage, it's 488% times 7. It has obviously had an extra hit damage of 1084 times 3, but the actual 488%, that's like stuff that you look at like rank 1 or like
and the animation itself is performed in like 3 shots, but it's only counted as 47 times 3, not like 3 extra hits on top of that. So it's just once. So because the animation shows her striking the target 3 times, but it's only counted as like 1 hit.
So because of it has low damage, like or low damage %, like high DR mobs like really are a struggle for tamer.
Yeah, if
and the low hits make it where like high evasion makes it hard too. So you get the worst of both worlds.
Like it makes like if they revamp Beast Rampage to work like Shy's Twirl, then it would actually be like far stronger because of just how many hits she performs with the animation itself. It just looks uncanny when you're swinging this giant bow staff at somebody like multiple times and it does like nothing.
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Like comically name.
Tamer talk.
Nerf the ult.
Do you think?
And everybody just like
so you
like
guys
in
who played
Siege, just a 100%
needs to be nerfed.
Yes. There was like 5 of us had a tamer on the ground with a die at a node war.
Like
that's what it is. That's what it is. In Noah's here, I just stand near my Shy. He powers me up with a Black Spirit Rage and just sends it over. And
like the problem with
just
play
be
tamer
into a
right
group
now,
and shift RB. It's a 3-button class.
A lot of on-game tamers want the ult nerfed. Like a lot of them don't like this like ult gameplay. They don't enjoy it. It's not enjoyable. I mean, running 100%ing is.
But I mean, like that's what we have to use essentially. It's not like we want it.
That's a lot of classes right now. I would argue that the ult meta is bad, so it's not just tamer. You know,
I mean,
so
if
that's
they give
a broader problem.
They give tamer reasonable buffs, and they don't nerf the ult, it's broken. They have to.
I really just want more protection or defense on the class.
So we want to talk about broken stuff. How do we feel about Valk right now?
I'm surprised they still didn't get their buff from KR yet. It's kind of weird that Kuno still got theirs and Valk did.
I recently just got done leveling my Valkyrie to 62, and like it's strange because properly animation canceled Valkyrie is really strong in areas where you can grip the mobs very tightly, right? But you have places where mobs don't grip up very tightly, like she's like one of the worst classes in the game in some cases, right? And it's really strange. I feel like, from my perspective at least, I won't say I'm very good at Valkyrie, but from playing 62, I feel like the AoEs are small, the damage scaling is really high on shield throw, and so you're forced to kind of play around shield throw and animation canceling everything, which I don't think that's necessarily the worst gameplay loop, but it's just strange because it makes it really hard with the small AoE sizes.
I mean, all Valks have going for them right now is just grab one shot and pull and ult. So they definitely need some love.
Wait. So you're saying that Valk is weak in PvP right now?
I don't think they're weak. They definitely can do. Like I've seen Valks do really dumb stuff, but I feel like they're just really bland. Like they're so boring, you know.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the thing.
I don't agree with that at all.
I
low key one of the best classes in the game in large scale. It's just a horribly thankless job. I want to be best friends with every good Valk in this game. Come DM me. Let's just fucking have a party. But the problem is it's just a very thankless job and it's not fun. But it's an amazingly strong class in large scale and fights when played correctly. And again, any class that can do something that can change the course of a fight is a strong class when played correctly.
I agree. I mean,
again, no one wants to play it because it's.
You see a good Valk, they're engaging you, and it can potentially just mess up your entire PvP, everything.
It just feels very clunky, I guess is the best way of saying it. It's like nothing combos with anything else, like in a way that feels smooth and proper. It feels like you're putting together random abilities and they happen, they work, and they kill people, but it's not like Sorceress where you can do instant iframe cancel into violation and turn back slash and all these other things where it's very smooth and flows well. There's no.
If you do that in PvP, you're dead.
No, you
can sort of important class, right? Or used to be.
The Q block cancel is a huge change for Val. Like Q block cancel is essentially the same as what you're talking about with Sock. You can essentially cancel like almost any awakening animation, and it basically do multiple animations at the same time. So I think when you get like more experience on like Valkyrie, like you can do some insane stuff on Valkyrie, and a lot of their abilities, like for example, if you can transition between pre-awakening and awakening very smoothly, especially with the prompt is Q cancel, or like if you do. Like for example, Falk has like a super fast protected grab. If you do like hasty Q cancel into grab, it's almost like an instant animation grab.
Yeah,
like that. There's a lot of things.
Which my thing is just fun gameplay loop, right? Like that's the thing. It's like it functionally Valk works. But fun wise, Valk does not work. Right, and so that's
how are you making that call though for Valks? I've never had Valks come to me and be like, man, or this is boring. Like
the fun thing is personal preference. That's people's preference.
Yeah. Its issue is that it's not a great early grinder, but once it gets to history, it like ascends into godhood. So like, I mean, maybe address the early grinding, but nothing. Definitely not late game. I don't know that. Well, I've never heard anyone say that. Oh my god, this class is boring to grind with. I mean, grinding is grinding, right? So
I'm just saying, everyone was talking about Shy's grinding. Dude, Valk, like,
it's insane.
It's
been watching
way better.
Balrog, whatever his name is, and over there he's been annihilating Sakraya.
Yeah, like Shy's grinding is good, but it's only good at 2 spots. Like, you get high AP on Valk, it's insane in almost every place. Well,
that's my experience too.
Tanky mobs.
I leveled Valkyrie to 61 at Soul for Mine. Don't ask me why. And that was a very unfun experience at like 245 to 257 AP Kudum. But now that I'm like 280 plus, I had a blast with it, right? And I think that statement of saying like the change the early game, make the lower AP ratios more fun, I think is a good statement.
I think Sulfur Mine's not fun for anyone though, bro. It's hard to.
Yeah, no one's grinding.
Hey, listen here. Let's not talk about the Sulfur Mines, all right?
Here's what I find about Valk personally. Like, I know you guys are saying that it plays a really good role in Siege, and I do agree that its toolkit's really good for that. But it is a very thankless job. But one thing that I think would make it a lot better, I personally find it kind of overall like. I don't know, the fact that it has PA and it has the suck, like that's all very good support utility, but it really doesn't have a lot of protected super armor damage. And I feel like as soon as you do that, you get that engage for your team, it's almost like you can't even follow up on that engage yourself because you don't have much to really bring to the table after that. And so it's kind of like a walking, talking support. Like the class itself is supposed to be able to do damage as well and be able to, participate in large scale and frag. But right now it just feels like it's kind of playing the role of a Shy in a way where it's just like, waiting for its ulti, it's waiting to do its suck, it's waiting to PA, it's waiting to do its group heal. If it had some sort of protected damage on it, like a frontal on something or a super armor on something that actually did decent damage in a ball, then I think that it would probably feel a lot better to play in large scale.
That's what I'm saying for the fact that they have to play very basic is because they're just not protected enough. but still, like those utilities they have are
Very
insane.
strong.
Very, very strong.
Never
Yeah,
discount.
You have the
discount
ult
a CC in this game that doesn't have an immunity resist that not only sucks you in the direction of the suck, it literally changes the direction your camera is facing. Like, it's amazingly good. It's so goddamn good. And don't forget the accuracy buff either.
If you have a Musa coming in with Crust Crusher, the suck will actually turn you the opposite and foul play misses. It's
It
literally
will
what it
literally
does.
kill people.
Yep.
Yeah, their Terra Sancta is like their 25% is
The 25% Terra Sancta is
oh
busted.
my.
You can literally, I
Terra
think it's the
Sancta
hardest
is
hitting
busted
skill in
on
the
its
game,
own.
right?
That ability does so much damage.
Oh, that's wild.
It's unprotected though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unprotected.
And it's easy to do too. It's just like hold left click.
I think one of the
Sounds like this.
one of the things with Valkyrie is that I think they lack a protection in certain areas. But one of the main, obviously, key points is that obviously the Valk's one of those classes where you can always get better. Like there's like almost no like cap on how good you can be on Valkyrie. There's some insane Valkyries out there, like absolutely crazy players. And for example, like I mentioned before, the Q block cancel. If you can Q block cancel some of your abilities, you almost make half of the animation protected because you can still deal the damage and then you gain the protection again via the very strong block. So I think that's like the way of making up for it. Because like for example, a lot of their awakening is protected. It's just not super high damage outside of someone being CC'd.
Well, that's kind of the way that Zerker is too. Is like we have high damage. It's all pretty unprotected though. Like you never see a Zerker Titan Blow, even though Titan Blow does a lot of damage because it's totally unprotected. And the only reason that we're still relevant in Siege is because we have a really good ulti and we have a really good Q buff. Everything else is kind of like we're just waiting. And from playing a class that's like that, I see a lot of the similarities in Valk, and it's even worse since they are pure melee. They have no option to do the Q buff, right? So I guess we kind of need to come to an agreement, I guess, if we think that the class shouldn't have, good potential to do damage in a super armor in the middle of a ball just because of its support, or do we think that it should be able to do both? Or maybe should we, think about buffing the damage it can do in super armors in a ball, but then maybe nerfing, the fact that the suck does all the things that you guys said it does, where it spins the character around and it goes through CCs or through frontal guards, I should say, and it goes through, all kinds of, like it goes through no resistances, like stuff like that. Maybe that needs to be addressed and then buff at other places? Or do we think that it should forever not be a damage oriented class in the middle of a ball just because of all these supports? Like, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think the whole thing with Valkyrie and all melee classes is really because of the AP meta, that all those classes that don't have range just kind of get destroyed, right? And that's kind of a problem with. It's like you can see like a warrior. Warrior has almost the exact same issues.
Except
right?
warrior can't go in ever.
Yeah. It's so like I think that's more of a systemic. Like I think Valkyrie's issues would be greatly alleviated if the AP meta was resolved in one way or another.
Well, yeah, I guess you could also ask if buffing DR or having more DR options available to buff classes like Valkyrie would make it better, because obviously evasion is very easy to build, but DR is pretty hard to build.
Well, yeah, honestly, I guess I want to talk about DR a little bit. This is not going to, it's going to be a really short topic, I think, here, but I think that the 20% that you get from building DR brackets, that should go to your that should go to your DR. It shouldn't just be 20% reduced damage, because that would actually make DP builds relevant and also make evasion builds a lot more squishy, because now DR actually has a percentage-based scaling. And that would actually make Valk feel a lot better.
This is a really big topic because basically there's 4 different things, right? There's accuracy, there's DR, there's evasion, AP. All right, if you want to counter AP, you build an evasion build. That's just mathematically, that's how it works. If you want to counter an evasion build, you build accuracy. That's how that works. If you want to counter an accuracy build, you build DR, right? So it's in this big quadfecta, right? So it goes in this big circle. And in the original design of the game was every DLC would release one. It'd be like one DLC would be the accuracy DLC. Like Calvin Sylvia is the DR DLC, right? Valencia is the AP DLC, right? That's what the original game design was, and they moved away from that because either they changed what they want to do or whatever. And when the AP meta came out, it basically broke that cycle, and now like evasion and accuracy builds, regardless, of DR builds and accuracy builds don't have a place because of how they're currently structuring the game, with AP being the focal point of people building their builds. So if they buff DR, what will happen is it'll basically swing the pendulum in our direction, and then basically evasion will be like they'll break something else anyway. No matter what they do, until AP meta is no longer a thing, and people can choose between the 4 different options. Because in the original game, right, if you had what would happen is there'd be a 50% chance you'd have somebody would be an equal fight. There'd be a 25% chance you'd fight somebody who had a build that countered your build, and then there'd be a 25% chance that you had a build that was favoring beating someone else. It was like paper, rock, scissors, right? That's basically what it was with the original game. And so because the game was balanced well enough, if you had a build that you're fighting and it was not in your favor, you could just outplay the other person and still beat them, even if they had a build that countered you. And that felt even more rewarding because when you figured out that they had a build that countered you, you're like, yo, I beat that guy even though he had a better build than me, right? He had the build that countered me.
Are we still talking BDO or a different game?
We're talking about BDO. That's how the game was originally designed.
I don't think I agree that the game was originally designed that way. Pretty sure it felt like the game was always designed to literally be an AP meta game.
Yeah.
If you look at what the developers did.
Well, why did everybody build?
That's because why did everyone start building evasion? All that. That's because the game kind of got to the point where I don't even think the developers thought it would be that broken.
AP outscales DR by like double right now.
Everything.
There's not enough DR. You could have full pen DR everything, and you'll still get beat by like AP because there's a million different buffs that buff your damage. And there's not very many accuracy buffs. Like, just think elixir-wise, there's like 6 or 8 elixirs that buff your damage by percentages. And
All
that
right,
just
so
straight counters DR.
Let's just let me. What happened before AP was in the game? What was the best build?
So I think the Valkyries could probably use like
AP was always in the game.
No,
Back on topic. Let's talk about this next week. Next week.
That's a good idea. It's a long conversation topic.
I completely agree. I appreciate you also saying that because I wasn't even catching that. Let's okay. Do we feel like we've covered our grounds here with Valk? I feel like we have, since if we're tailing off a bit. Did we cover Zerk last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
We did. Okay. Okay. And so we briefly went into Ninja. No, we didn't. We went straight into Meiwa. So we haven't covered Ninja, Meiwa, or sorry, Ninja Kuno. I mean, and that's why we have block jump here. Where are we? I'm gonna let you take this over here, block jump. Where are you standing right now on current? What are pros and cons? Current condition of Ninja.
Well, like for PVE, there's a big misconception where like Ninja's PVE is super trash and everything. Everyone complains about their PVE. PVE is not inherently bad. It's really good at low AP also, like killing mobs. So it has a lot of good movement to go pack to pack. And then end game, it just takes more button presses, but I mean it still averages pretty good numbers, especially once you start getting more AP for PvE.
Yeah, I want to just add in here is just like with what I'm saying, it's just Ninja PvE isn't that bad considering I play a bunch of short sword classes, so transferring my gear over isn't even that difficult, and I found Ninja like PvE wasn't that.
Out of curiosity, then, like, what kind of AP are we talking, and like what kind of trash would you pull at end game spots?
265, you'd be making like 3.3, 3.5k in Histria usually, like on 7 Elton, and then at 269, 273 Kudum, you make around 4k trash. That's at least what me and Exceed make in 7 Elton.
Damn.
Yeah, that seems pretty on par, I guess, with like Mystic even.
Yeah.
Or not right up where there with Mystic, but I mean it's not terrible either.
For how good it does in PvP, it's definitely like a trade-off that's worth it at least.
Okay, the other argument is you're doing so many more skills than the average class, though.
Yeah.
So
you're doing a lot more
APM
skills
is nuts compared to everybody else.
But like with Seabuff, you'll literally kill packs in like 6 skills, 5 skills.
How many do you say you're pulling on 7 Elton?
Exceed pulls around 4k, like pretty like consistently if he goes for it, and then I pull around 3.8 around there. But I have Black Star also, but I mean, we still pull pretty high numbers.
How do you feel about the fact that you're literally going to get arthritis playing Ninja on PvE?
A lot of our I mean, you can make that argument, but a lot of our button presses are still pretty close to each other, at least like key wise. So I don't find that much trouble.
It has to be better than Valkyrie. Yo, I was really curious. All right, so I think it's a high skill ceiling, right, for PvE. Would you agree?
Yeah, PvE. Yeah, you can't like mispress buttons or you're gonna scuff your entire like packs and all that shit. That's why it's pretty annoying.
The first thing I'm interested in is it okay that we have high skill PvE classes that lower skill levels are terrible? Because honestly, Ninja's terrible at low skill level PvE.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty bad at low skill level, but like for how easy it is to move to pack, and then with like target chase and everything, where you just pop that and then you don't lose any stam while running, it's not super terrible as long as you can one shot them.
Do you think it's fine that lower skill players and you have a class that only lower skill players in PvE would be bad at, or do you think they should find some way to make the lower skills to raise the low skill ceiling?
Yeah, a little bit, because like if people like struggle with it, especially like if they're brand new to the class, probably be pretty annoying. And then when people awaken their ninja, they always complain about how clunky it is and how like awkward it feels compared to pre-awakening. So I could see that a lot of the time. Should definitely be like smoothened out a little bit, but nothing to like drastically change the class.
And do you think there's like a particular way that you can think of that would be a good ability to raise the low skill ceiling, but not make it where the class is broken at high skill?
It's hard to balance it like that, because if you tweak anything, it's gonna like walk the class like to the left or right of the pendulum, depending on like what you end up changing. I can't really think of anything that would help like lower skill ceilings, because it's literally just you target chase, run to a pack, blade spin, run to the next pack, just murderous intent into it, and then next one just serpent. Basically rotate those skills forever around pack to pack. It's not super hard.
I mean, small scale, it speaks for itself. Ninja's insane.
Yeah.
Sure.
Large scale, how do you fare? Like, what role do you feel like if you're not?
Ninja's role is literally like kill everything. I feel like their role is basically the class that's gonna frag the hardest out of every other class. I usually like all the ninjas that I've seen that are good in large scale. You'll always see them in either like top 3 or always first in their node wars or sieges. I think that's just how the class plays for how high damage it does. And
Ninja seems so strong in large scale.
Yeah,
like,
it's
maybe
really,
as a Musa I'm biased, but when
it's
we
definitely
Filter,
super strong. But the only people that you're gonna see always outperform everybody is either people who are the highest geared people of the entire class, who will always frag because they have like 310 AP, or people who are genuinely actually good at their class, and you'll always see them usually at the top. People who are like average at Ninja, 269 AP, like you'll always see them like either bottom top page or either second paging usually. Like you'll never see average ninjas like always fragging out, because I usually don't see it. I always see a lot of ninjas struggle, especially at like mid-tier gear compared to someone who's really good at their class.
I think the problem with that logic is like they're feeding gear into the game, right? Eventually, I think everyone's gonna have the same gear.
Yeah, like once ninjas start getting up to like 289, it's hard to not do well.
But like I don't know. At high gear, it just seems so strong because they're trading iframes and dealing damage at the same time, and they can land CCs. So like,
I mean, like you'll see like a lot of BR's ninjas are super.
I feel like it's still too strong, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're running 300 AP with like C9 Kaffers and all your armors, basically gonna do well. But I feel like any classes like that where you're gonna outperform like crazy, especially at high gear like that, I feel like any class does well. But maybe it's just Ninja for their high single target damage. But
if there's something you could change about the class to make it better for your experience, what are some things you'd critique?
I don't know. I feel like the class is perfectly where it is. Maybe removing stiff off block jump, I think, would probably be helpful for a lot of people who hate the class.
I see.
But I'm surprised. I'm curious off what other people's opinions of the class, because I mean, mine's gonna be pretty biased. I feel like the class is in a good spot.
I love hearing what you have to say when you say an experienced player will be a really great ninja grinder, because as an unexperienced person who tried ninja for a few months, like I was waiting for it to, my ability to come around, but I did notice that as I figured things out more and more, like I was rewarded with more trash an hour. And mind you, it wasn't good because I'm completely trash at the class, but
yeah, it's definitely one of those classes where you have to practice it. Like there's a lot of history guides that I know that will give you good like combos and stuff. You have to literally go like to the battle arena and hit a scarecrow for like 15 to 20 minutes if you want to like actually do well.
Keep doing it.
I think in the large scale scenario for ninjas, like fighting against, I feel like some of their iframes that just have damage capabilities should be super armors, because I think compared to other classes, it just seems a little unfair when we try to trade against them.
We don't have like any like damage iframes particularly. Like a lot of our stuff is.
Wait, classes have damage iframes?
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels like it with Ninja. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's just like with high FPS. It's gonna be pretty nuts. It's gonna feel like an iframe when you literally just block jump in like Serpent. It's gonna come out instantly if you have really good FPS, and there's nothing you can do about it.
In my experience, when you throw any SHA against a Ninja on large scale, they don't eat any damage. It's just they're just in thin air.
Yeah. It's definitely like FPS intel, I feel like, because if you're going to get someone who's like 144 FPS on large scale like Siege, his Serpents are going to come out instantly, and you're not even going to be able to see it.
Now, I don't know this passively, but how does Ninja scale with evasion, DR, etc.?
Evasion, it scales super well. That's why you'll see like everyone who's high end. Yeah, the best scaling, definitely. That's why you see everyone run Libras, Muskins, Penheave at high end gear.
Evasion is super strong in Ninja because of that smoke screen buff,
Smoke
right?
screen,
With the evasion.
6 buff.
Like 18%.
Yep.
Evasion complements Ninja very, very well.
Yeah. Maybe a little too well in some spots, but it's like one of the only classes.
I think it should.
I mean, it definitely should, but like
it's the class and its role.
You literally don't need like DP to do well on Ninja and large scale. Just like when you stack that much DP in large scale, it just makes the class ridiculous.
It's a little antithetical to have an assassin class that's tanky.
Yeah, that's why I feel
completely agree.
Like like all the ninjas that I know that frag super hard barely have any DP stacked, and if the DP they do stack, they're still going to get shredded by like 2 people, usually one person who's above 269. But when you have full level 9 Kafras, all pen on Libras and Muskins, and when you have like 5 people on top of you and you don't die, you just ninja step and then Oni Shadow into Invis, pretty retarded.
Now we don't have any Kunos in the room, so
I think Proofy used to play Kuno.
Yeah, I played Kuno for like 6 months.
How long were you on Kuno for?
6 months.
6 months.
2 years.
But hold up, you played it before the buffs, though, right? Like it wasn't.
I played it.
after.
I played it when we had Tendon Cutter, and then when we took Tendon Cutter away, and then when we got Spin Buff. So
I played her when she was garbage, and then I didn't play her when she was OP.
Because the spin buff is really nice for PvP, like that frags.
Yeah, the spin, the Beyblade buff that's all she is, and a gigantic Beyblade.
Yeah, I could talk about how I feel about the buffs. You want me to? I mean, if we're up to me,
I just wanted to confirm that we had some people.
Oh,
that just had that's all I was doing, man. Fuck.
I am gonna roll back to her eventually. So.
I mean, so originally before she's gotten her buffs, what deterred you from the class originally?
I mean, I liked her before before the buffs. To be honest, I mean,
I was actually asking Crandus.
Oh, before the boss, it turned me away. It's just like you had to just throw like 14, 15 skills out, and you still can't really kill people back then. It was just really rough. And then people would just like re-roll into Ninja instead, and it's just like Kuno's like nobody cares. And then eventually I got tired of it.
Strikers going to Mystic because it made sense.
Yeah, and then like Strikers and Mystics came along, and then I just eventually rolled off into a Tamer because at least I knew I could kill somebody like with the same amount of actions. It was just like really unrewarding for what it was. And then like all you had before like the CC changes, like it was the spin to win was really, really nice because it was like the biggest trade-off against like it's like really bad to trade against Kuno's spinning back then because it caused like a stiffness into a stun and it's super armor and it gave you like lifesteal and it's her hardest hitting skill was 100 crit. So it was pretty much everything to start off into a combo kind of thing. But then after the CC changes, like things got really weird, and then everybody was like a Tendon Cutter god. And then they removed the stiffness off of that, and then like people were like, "Well, Kunos have like nothing now." And then they gave her a spin again, and then now everybody's just a spinner again, but without the CCs.
You ain't got a CC. You can spin someone standing up.
Yeah.
So now we have.
I think what's crazy about that spin though is the fact that it's on such a low cooldown. You know, like
damage split.
They're very, very powerful in the powerful abilities that are on low cooldown. Like Ninja Serpent Ascension, it's another one that's on a very low cooldown. But like for the only perspective I really have is my own class, where a powerful ability like that, Ancient Wave, no protection on it other than when it's charging, but you don't charge it, and also it's on a 30-second cooldown. So from my perspective, that spin is completely busted, but
I really busted. No, I agree. Like, cause like I just tested it right now in game, and like with 0 attack speed, by the time the spin is finished, it's already 6 seconds left out of 8. So it's really a 2-second super armor that has like a 50 hit lifesteal, and because they added extra rotations into it, all of those extra rotations also inherit that 50 lifesteal.
If you remove the spins, damage, and everything,
1200 health return.
What do you substitute for spin after you remove, like, let's say, like all the damage and the super armor from it? Like, what else could Kuno do in a large scale situation to like burst the group? Because I feel like Kuno's role is supposed to be pretty close to Ninja. So if you remove spin, it basically becomes a useless class because they share a lot of stuff with Ninja, but it's barely anything like in Pre-Awakening, like Shadow Stomp and Moonlight. That's about it. It's like their only good safe engages out of stealth into a ball, but if you remove
I would say Kunos have a lot of super armors though.
They have a lot of super armors, but I mean, if you remove spin damage, I feel like they're not gonna go crazy like ninjas can.
I mean, Kuno 100% is busted as fuck.
Kuno's 100% is good too.
It's really good.
I feel like Ninjas is still a lot better compared to Kuno's 100% because for how long it charges up and how long you have to stay alive to actually have it pop off. I don't know. I just don't see it as strong.
The spin is really, really strong though. Like most,
yeah, I mean, like the HP heal and everything is pretty fucking ridiculous.
Even then, it's like you can use it as a killer move too, not even just for sustain or like trade hits or whatever. Like if you knock somebody down with, say, for instance, Delighted Blast or whatever, that's already like a spike, and then you just spin right after because all the spin hits have down attack on it, so you just erase somebody. That's
you should at least remove the super armor probably, but I mean, if you nerf the damage to like crazy,
I don't know about removing the super armor off of the spin though.
Then, I mean, if you trade off the damage, then, yeah. Or like trade it off at least for something. But what were you gonna say?
If it were up to me,
go ahead.
All right, if it were up to me, I would honestly revert spin back to where it was before they gave us the buff. Like they didn't increase the damage necessarily; they increased the amount of times you spin and the length of it. So I think if they, so I think if they revert it back to where it was, because it's not something. It's in my opinion, it's not something that Kuno needs. Like that's not. Like that doesn't give Kuno, like that gives Kuno the identity that it's a spin class. That's not what we want, right?
It's like just all those feedback threads. We submitted like very detailed reports of like, and it was very consistent. I glossed over like everybody's responses, and everybody had like really good feedback towards the revamp for Kuno. And at the end of it, they just kind of disregarded all of it and just added extra rotations to the spin, and everybody was like, "WTF?"
It's goofy. The only thing that I would be worried about when they if they revert spin damage is like it would technically ruin our PvE because our PvE went up drastically with the extra spin. But like I would, dude, like there are so many better things you could do to Kuno. Like you can give Kuno SA on the grab again, like only when it lands, or you could give stiffen to the last part of Tendon Cutter because that part of Tendon Cutter is
I submitted that too. Tendon Cutter can have CC on the very last hit because it's 3 hits, and the third hit is like by the time the person realizes that they can get out.
I disagree with SA on grab. That just shouldn't be.
It should be the only class that I think have because Ninja shouldn't get SA on their grab like that because that'd be pretty fucking broken. But Kuno should definitely get it. I mean, it's like only Kuno's like serious engage, like where we're gonna be like protected while bounding you in the grab, but because our grab's basically useless for us.
Yeah, it's not. So I'm not saying like have SA on the entire grab animation. I'm saying like only when you land. Like if you miss a grab, like you should be
or make it like
instant
cast for Kuno. Like
or quick.
There's not very many things like that could be improved with Kuno. She still has like 2 or 3 awakening skills that no one ever uses since like her release. It's just absolutely worthless.
Sosprey is terrible. Chain Crash is terrible. Like
Chain Crash was okay before CC changes because you could just use that as a CC stun net because it used to have super armor, so people just standing in it would just get caught eventually. But now it's just worthless and does no damage, so it's just delete it off the tree.
So
or just lock it and never use it because you're gonna get killed using it.
I was really interested at the timing of the Kuno's update. So we got Witcher and Wizard. Awesome. I think they did a fairly good job with that overall. And Striker seems like they did a pretty superb job with Striker. And then it feels like they got rushed for Shy or the Ocean update or maybe PS4 launch or fill in the blank for whatever they're else were working on. And then they said Kuno was next and they just kind of pushed it out with whatever they were working on internally. And I feel like that's what kind of happened because it just doesn't make any sense with all the feedback we got back and how good it did with Witch Wizard and Striker that all of a sudden they just botch one of them, right? You do perfect on 3 and what happened on the 4th? You know, I feel like something happened internally that it just rushed them.
Yeah, I think they took over our idea of like having an identity crisis with the class, like between Ninja and Kuno, and they're like, oh, we'll make Kuno just the spin class. You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't like it. Like I don't like it at all. It's actually the reason why.
Spin meme.
Yeah, seriously, it's actually the reason why I rolled off the class. Like it makes PvP so boring, and it's just yeah.
I mean, I will say, ever since the buffs, I have been seeing more Kunos, and that's definitely nice to see because before that, they were just extinct. Yeah. So whether if it's boring or not, I think they did a decent job at least with Kuno. I just don't know how well the PvE is faring up now compared to other classes. I haven't heard anything about it.
I've heard it's pretty good.
I would think PvE is a lot better now just because of the extra rotations on the spin itself, and there's pretty much like a 6-second gap in between each of them. So it's like definitely a huge buff. Like I don't even grind on my Kuno yet, and I'm pretty confident that it will like outdo my Tamer, even though my Tamer's more geared.
Oh, I was gonna say with Loot Scroll on Kuno. I mean, I'm not high AP, but 260 AP with Nuver, like I could pull 6.7k in Akhman on Loot Scroll. So
yeah,
I mean, that's top end. Like it's nuts. So
the thing is though, people aren't gonna pick a class that is so close to another class and yes, arguably far worse. So you got Ninja is way better than Kuno, or at least definitely was. Arguably still is because it's better protected.
Definitely.
Kuno's and then you have Lazy Ninja. That's what they were going for.
Thanks,
Lazy Ninja.
Anyway, so then there's also like Musa, which is arguably significantly better than Meiwa. Does its job better, and Meiwa doesn't have enough of its own individual identity that people would rather play Meiwa.
So
and then you have Ranger and Archer. So it's like this cycle of like classes not having proper identities but being super close.
They don't
to
have
each
that
other.
problem with Strikers and Mystics.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, that is like they do have different identities. That's the only time it's been quite different because obviously you have Striker with like such huge damage and then Mystic with a far better kit utility wise and CC wise. So I don't know.
I think
the other classes.
Mystics have been re-rolling a lot nowadays. Like I see
because
less
they
and
can't
less
shift
of them.
depth into a fucking grab anymore. That's why.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like they got a little bit overly nerfed.
No.
But a high AP, they're stupid, so there's that.
They don't have any
Mystics are still
classes
strong.
because
There's
they're
a lot
a
of bad people playing class that was helping them get carried. But if you're a good Mystic, you still fuck people up. PvE, PvP, small scale, large scale. You can do really well.
I always thought they should have, whenever you use your martial shards and you summon a dragon, that should have increased damage, and that should be good. Mystics would rotate dragons, right? And then that would be like the class identity would be like that.
That is what you do on Mystic.
Dragons already have 100% accuracy, though, is what I've heard. So
that's
what
I heard it directly from a Mystic. Maybe I'm wrong.
The dragon doesn't actually hit. It's just the visual effect when you use a enhanced skill.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike every other pet in the game.
Yeah, I think what people, I guess, like Mystic got nerfed, yes, 100%. But Mystic right now is still like insanely strong in regards to the scaling that Mystic has and the utility that she has and the protection that she has. Yeah, granted, she's weaker if you're around 296, but I think the reason why Mystic feels weaker in general is because everyone has more AP now. And I think that's why she feels like weaker. Or like you said, people think she's got two nerfs. I made Mystic for over a year. The class is nowhere near like weak.
No, it's still really, really good.
So I think a lot of people for Kuno, wrapping up the Kuno conversation.
Like the Shift F fix, both like the bug that it had, like Wolf Frenzy fix, that made a lot of people reroll because obviously you essentially had like you didn't need 0 brain cells to Shift F grab someone. Same with vacuum grab. Like all these abilities like this allowed like really basic players to pick up Mystic and win a duel. Like
vacuum grab is still a thing. I mean, I feel like that should definitely not be a thing. If you get vacuumed, there's literally no counterplay. It's like, what the hell?
Well, all you can do is iframe the grab. That's all you can do.
Well, I mean, it's great if you have
Kunos are just a Beyblade now.
Because you're sitting there like a sitting duck. So like you have to play that vacuum as like your only counter is baiting them, and like I can only bait them if I time it correctly and if I just grab them, and like that doesn't happen often because in most cases you're in their hands.
I would personally love to see for CCs, and let's not get it twisted, a crowd control. A suck as a crowd control, it should count towards some CC limit, and it's a pretty hard CC, and I feel like it should count as 1. allow them to suck, allow them to do damage in the suck, and then grab, and then finish their combo that way. But right now they can suck, they can damage, they can do grab, they can do damage again, CCU again, and then continue doing damage. It's kind of, I'm not saying that their combos are insane. Like, they can't do a ton of damage in a combo just because of the way their AP scaling works. But as a mechanic in general, I just feel like sucks kind of need to be looked at and be something towards the CC counter. Because for something that you can't resist and something that's so easy to cast, it's like kind of over the top in my mind.
What CC category would you add it to? Grapple or something else?
Well, I mean, it can just, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a category. You could just count it as one on the, like, because right now you can do 2 CCs. You can either count it as 1 or you can count it as 0.7 as a stiffen. And so obviously Pierre, Cacao, they would have to just choose which one they think is balanced. But I think it should count towards something. And I also think that slow stacking is another problem as well. And I think that should be addressed as well for CC limits in general.
It's a soft CC.
We got into like mystics from like Kunos, and now we're talking about like slow. I agree with that. All this stuff is like really important. But I want to go back to Ninja. Yeah, what are we nerfing on Ninja?
Their evasion stacking for sure, in my opinion. Like at high end gear, when you run Glass Cannon Nova with max AP and you can run C9 Kafras and be insanely tanky as if you're running full DP, then that should definitely be nerfed, in my opinion.
And then I think you mentioned the CC on block jump,
yeah,
right?
You can remove stiff on block jump, and I think the class would still be fine. But if you do that off Kudo, I feel like Kudo suffers a lot harder than Ninja would. That's why I like.
I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the stiff on block jump. So I don't know. I guess it's personal preference, but
I personally don't think like block jump should have stiffen itself.
Actually,
myself,
you know what?
So.
I really like that idea because for classes that don't have grabs, just pressuring a ninjas, it can feel impossible just because of block jump. So
yeah,
I actually really like that idea. That'd be good.
Because you can play off the stiff, like you can play without the stiff definitely, because you literally go block jumping into smoke screen and you're in a super armor CC, and you don't really need the stiff from block jump to do that.
No, not at all. And plus, we can just lower the cooldown on block jump too.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty fucking broken though. 10-second block jump was actually insane. I think that was probably one of the most skills at the time.
It's pretty crazy.
But yeah,
do you not feel like its protection chaining is too hardcore with the amount of like movement it also has? Like it's just so well protected with really viable CCs, and then it's really fast. Yeah, Ninja, not Kuno.
Yeah,
Kuno is a little slower and super armor.
Feel that way. A lot of this, I don't know. It just takes like because the people that do that a lot are usually really good at their class. But like when I see really bad ninjas do that, I feel like a terrible ninja, you'll be able to kill them super easy. They're just like running, and then they just do ninja step, ghost step, and they just start running again.
Yeah, but we can't balance classes based on people not being able to play them. So
yeah. Something I noticed, and I was only on ninja for like 3 months, so like when I started to get like somewhat decent at the movement, the classes really isn't gated by stamina at all, and I think that's an issue. I think stamina should be more of a factor.
I agree because
I can continue to move literally at like 5 stamina. I could just keep chaining like protected skills or iframes and like not have an issue. There's like literally no limit.
You just got to be careful with stamina stuff like that.
Dude, as a Musa trying to chase down a ninja, it's just like I run out of stamina and they can keep chasing me. But the difference is if I'm out of stamina, I can't do anything, not even protect myself. You're just gonna die.
If you're at 0 stamina as a ninja too, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You also die.
I definitely think
because
they
Ghost Step
stamina nerfs.
Ghost Step's stamina cost, and then like Silent Iframe or Silent Charge is a stamina cost. Like, you're basically stuck there unless you have block jump that you can like regain your stam. But if you're off cooldowns and you're 0 stam, you're 100% gonna die.
Yeah, but it kind of goes back to like what we were saying. Like if you're playing the class correctly, like I'd only been on the class for 3 months, right? And I feel like I kind of got the movement down, and I never felt like I was gated by stamina.
Yeah, if you add like double stamina like on Ghost Step, I feel like you're gonna kill the class nearly like for how it plays out because you're gonna slow down the class a lot.
Yeah, I wouldn't say double, but I think it needs to be restricted by something.
But would you agree that Ninja can just outlast any class in the game?
I feel like
in a long fight.
Yeah, there's just our sustain's really good for how we can stay still and like regain stam. Yeah,
I think that's what needs to be adjusted, right? Because they can just keep on the continuous momentum and never stop.
That makes sense too as the assassin role, right? It doesn't make sense they can just keep on going forever. You want to kind of go in, blow everything, and then like, all right, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's a weird line though. It's like if you look at Kuno, like Kuno doesn't depend so much more on like stamina, but rather the moves that she chains together to keep herself protected. So
yeah, it's just kind of the same for Ninja. Like a lot of our skills are based off like iframe chaining and then like frontal guarding a lot, like with C swap frontal guards and stuff like that, and then transition frontal guards. How because Ninja doesn't have a S block, so our S block is basically our awaken transition movement, and that's how we move around. And it's a lot of frontal guard based skills most of the time. Unless like you're like doing your core iframe skills or.
What about leaving it as it is and then kind of revisiting the other classes that have the really big stamina issues?
I think other classes should definitely be looked at because I
agree with you that
Ninja because like I feel like stamina is fucking a shit mechanic, but I feel like a lot of other classes shouldn't suffer on stamina losses because it should be it should be catered towards like how Ninja is for stamina wise. Like every other class should be a lot more forgiving on their stamina because
well they did that to a lot of classes. A lot of classes got
I remember a lot
more hit on stamina.
I remember that nerf, the stamina nerf for everyone. That shit's retarded in my opinion.
So talking about stamina,
go ahead, Shaky.
So like really quick about stamina, I feel like when all those changes happened, they overdid it to Musamé because when they made those changes, we're forced to play completely defensively.
Yeah.
So when we have low stamina, what happens is we can't even do our frontal engages, let alone like chase away, right?
Yeah.
So if they're gonna revisit that, I think just to add to the Musamé stuff, they should just remove stamina off of our engages, but keep it on chase.
Yeah, I don't think the problem's like Ninja or Kuno, like stam wise. I think it's like other classes suffer so much from stamina that they're just like looking at it in a scuffed perspective because for how shit their classes with stamina.
I think it's true, but even if you, for example, if you took Ranger and you gave her more stamina, it's not like I could still do much against Ninja. So there's more to it than just stamina. That's like glossing over. Because when they did the class in 2018, every class lost a ton of protection. Well, a lot of protection, a lot of CCs in different areas. But there's some classes that came off much easier than others, and Ninja is one of those classes.
Well, I mean, Ninja feels like that because Ninja was like already like even before the CCs got or protections and CCs got like all messed with. Ninja was basically how it is now, but just with like a few other like super armor CCs. Now it's basically, I feel like it's like been this way for a very long time, and then now every other class is basically going towards how Ninja was.
Well, it's like Sork wasn't busted before. They didn't change much on it. I mean, obviously they removed things like stamina on Night Frame and all kinds of different or Nightmare, sorry, and other things that they did change. But ultimately, the class is the way it is now in the meta. It is now because other classes lost so much in their kit to deal with those classes, right? We're less protected, and those skills that we do have that are CCs are unprotected. And unlike Sork, you can't animation cancel, so that becomes another problem. So I guess the whole point is you have to decide whether Ninja, as it is too strong because it's too well protected with.
But we only have one protected CC, or like that's
right. But that's every class. But the thing is, you're like animation canceling and landing shit so fast and being so protected, you can burn other classes out of their own kits. Like before that was possible. So the question is, you have to decide whether you're gonna take Ninja and tune it down a little bit, or you have to tune up a lot of other classes.
It's definitely. Oh yeah, I guess. It's probably
you know what I mean? Like, because in 2018, I wasn't thinking, oh god, a Ninja, but now I'm like, well, there's nothing really I can do about that. Is my escape up?
For how long a lot of classes that haven't been touched, I feel like a lot of classes.
Yeah, I think a way to answer. Do you think you could still excel block jump and RBF with a couple of stamina changes? Like nothing crazy, but
I don't know. Like
basically to the point to where like you have to actually care about your stamina.
Stamina is very annoying to play with because I mean, with myself, I know a lot of other ninjas won't do it, but like I side slash a lot in between my movement to proc the attack speed, and that just drains my stamina most of the time. There's definitely a lot of times in RBF where I'll be very low on stam, like 10 stam, 15 stam a lot of the time after an engagement when I'm trying to like escape. And then if people are still like running forehead at me, literally just sprinting, I'm gonna run out of stam and die. But
yeah, but I know what Andrew was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean the
like Ninja definitely got it off a lot easier after all the CC changes and super armor changes, right? So what he's trying to say is that like other classes have to significantly make a lot more risk than ninjas have to make risk right now in the current meta.
Yeah,
and it's the same with the stamina problem, right? Like it's just too much. So, I mean, for the whole like double nerfing stamina thing, I mean, they did that to Musa and Meiwa. So I think it's definitely fair for ninjas to have to make a risk. Because right now, they really don't need to make too many. They can stay significantly safer compared to a lot of other classes right now.
Okay. I just want to, these are all good points, but this might be an unpopular opinion. I would love to see maybe Ninja stay where it's at and have all the other classes buffed up.
So that
instead of
leave Striker
nerfing,
alone. Striker doesn't need to be
nerfing all
touched.
these classes more and more to the point where
it
no
should be
class
less.
is fun, right? So I'd rather buff up the other classes, give them their identities back, and then we can, all have fun on our classes.
I completely agree with you, because in 2018 there was no balance, right? There was like, Mystic was like Spiral Torpedo with Super Armor CC and on a low cooldown and healed them class. I mean, there was all kinds of crazy shit going on, lingering Super Armor. But every class, in my opinion, was fun to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had fun because the kits were so much more expansive and more aggressive, and you could make more, and then they artificially slowed everyone down. And then now we have, it would have been one thing if it had made the game more balanced, but I completely disagree with anyone that says that this is a more balanced state of the game, because I don't agree. And I think, Vert, for example, you played Meiwa back then. Meiwa back then, maybe it wasn't, Meiwa was quite strong, but it wasn't like, oh my God, Meiwa's here, like we're fucked, right? But the class was fun to play, and it didn't matter that there was mystics rolling around. You didn't care as much because your class was super fun. So I agree with you that I would rather see more classes being brought up to their original standard than it's Ninja to be hit so hard that it feels like it's like, well, what's the point?
Yeah, if you like destroy its stamina like that, it's gonna feel a lot slower and it won't be as fun, of course. But yeah, a lot of classes definitely deserve a lot more love.
I think the reason they did that a long time ago was probably because of the servers. Because if you think about it, the more fast you go, the faster the servers have to respond and be more accurate. Because you have to keep track of people more consistently. Otherwise, the data is not reflected properly on our people's screens, right? And so the big complaint back then was desync. And if you make classes go slower, then all the information is more relevant, even though you didn't actually speed up the servers at all.
That's true. I'm really glad I don't have desync anymore. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's still an issue today. Like I realized that, but I think that could have played a factor in what they were trying to do. And like, if they actually just buff all their classes back to full speed, then it's going to make the desync issue even more an issue. And I don't have a problem with them making things faster, but they need to solve like the server issue at the same time they would do something like that.
I mean, the servers are just always going to be shit. I've come to that realization. So let's just make the classes fast and have fun while we're desync.
Yeah, they're not going to fix the servers. I mean, we've tried for so long. I mean, you just kind of have to live with it and expect it.
I'll be biased. I don't know if every class being fast is actually fun.
Oh, it's fun if you play a fast class.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But back then, just watching everyone bounce around like fucking monkeys on cocaine.
I know. I didn't enjoy it.
That sounds like a good time to me. Are you kidding?
Yo, come on over.
It's less about skill there. It's more about throwing abilities at each other while we're moving super fast. It's just, I don't know. That's my opinion.
I get what you're saying. Totally. I want to go back to the Kuno for just a second because I feel like Potion, you had something to contribute for the closing of Kuno. I feel like we covered the topic enough. Unless anyone wants to contribute more to Kuno, I'll leave this as an open table for that class to be wrapped up. We can revisit some ninja points as they come up as well if we'd like. Potion, did you have anything to finish on that topic?
I was just curious what everybody's like closing conclusions were, because we started getting sidetracked with Mystic and stuff. So I was just curious what, like, wrapping up the conversation on it, see what people thought.
I think that's a fair thing to see.
My closing statement, at least, is just fix how evasion scales with how much gear you have while running full AP, and you could probably remove stiff off block jump, and that'll be definitely fine too. My two opinions.
My closing statement for Kuno is just revamp some of those awakening skills that have been around since her release that are still completely useless. It's pretty.
I say revamp some awakening skills like Sosprey and Chakram, and then I would say also like fix some of the pre-awakening skills. Like, dude, like give Tendon Sif back on the last little part. Like, come on.
When I mean revamp, I mean actually like redesign the damn skill, not just change some digits.
Yeah, and take away the spin buff. Like, we don't want that. Like, it's cool. Like, right? Like, it looks great. but it doesn't fix the overall class. So
awesome.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say before we move on to another class, I have a very brief thing I want to bring up that relates to something we talked about last week.
Absolutely.
If that's okay.
Absolutely.
It's mostly the choice, but can I link a video like in the Discord and like everyone here can watch it? I promise it's safe.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to fit that in the edit, but we can do that. Let's do it.
I guess you could always put in the caption or something that this is the video being referred to.
Oh, yeah, I can throw this in the description. Totally, yeah.
Okay, so this is referring to how Q buff works on Giants, because some people were a little curious about it last week. This video was made like right after the podcast last week. I just linked in the podcast Discord. That's us testing Q buff. And notice how what you'll see there is he's going to pop Q buff, he's going to shoot randomly to an empty area, and then he's going to shoot it in succession to 4 separate players. Each player gets knocked down regardless. There's no cooldown on the knockdown, except for the third player who immuned it. Q buff knocks you down, there is no cooldown on it at the moment, even though there should be. I have more videos, if necessary.
No, I just watched it all.
I agree. In conclusion, nerf it.
Yeah.
Choice. Thoughts?
I believe Choice brought it up last week that it was 12 or 14 seconds. And I agree with him. They nerfed it. They said in the patch notes, we nerfed it. Cool. There's now a cooldown on the knockdown, not the down smash. But
yeah, I guess they didn't fix that.
I don't know when this happened, but you get knocked down on every shot.
There's a cooldown on the down smash, not the knockdown.
Oh, there's no cooldown on that either. I have another video actually. You can just popcorn.
No, I'm just saying they mixed it up, but I guess not. Yeah. You just didn't do anything.
So in that video, it kind of looks like Kiriseki didn't get knocked down.
He immunes it. If you rewatch it, he immunes the knockdown.
So did you do this multiple times? Because like,
yeah, I can link another one.
If you hit somebody with a down smash, doesn't it still just knock them down anyway?
No, I thought down smash.
If that was the case, then what's the point of taking the knockdown?
Yeah, no, it's.
Well, that's why I thought that's why I thought that whole patch was a joke in the first place. Like they removed literally nothing about it when they removed the knockdown anyway.
I just linked another one. He's doing it on one player, but you can see that there's not a cooldown of 12 or whatever seconds we were saying. Again, he'll shoot and then. I don't know why. Seems to be a bug given the intent. But it makes Q buff even more stronger than I would have originally argued.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely need to fix that.
Okay, let's okay.
Sorry, Zerkers.
I know some people aren't going to be necessarily thrilled about revisiting Striker. My question is, did we cover... I don't know if we covered Mystic at all last week, because I don't think we had a Mystic main in the room. I don't recall covering, so I don't hear anyone speaking up. But I know we do have some here today, and I feel like it's going to be a similar conclusion and conversation as to Striker as well. And I'm going to reiterate that I felt that Striker, in short, just did not need to be changed. I felt like our toolkit was great. Namiko, I know you're maining Mystic right now as well. How is everything faring in the class as a whole? Small scale, large scale, gear progression, scaling. How are you feeling right now?
I mean, I re-rolled from Mystic because it's boring.
You re-rolled? I didn't realize you re-rolled off it.
Yes, but the redo, like for example, the last nerf on Mystic took away the kind of fun elements to engage on Mystic and just tunneled the class heavily down a grab route. So that's why I re-rolled.
Crouching wolf, right?
Yeah, crouching wolf stiff and nerf. Like for example, that nerf on the crouching wolf, I would rather have the super armor taken away, just so I didn't have to be grab bot essentially. But that's different. That's just a personal preference, obviously, because I don't like vacuum grab engagement. But Mystic right now in its current state, Mystic early game, the nerfs on Mystic were it made lower geared players suffer. So obviously the evasion nerf, the self buff from 15%, if I recall correctly, to 9%, and just taking away the forward guard and twisted and stuff like that. All these nerfs that they received over time. Yes, they are nerfs that should have happened, 100%. Mystic was way, way too strong. The fix on Wolf Frenzy, 100%. That was one of the best changes probably from last year, because I hated fighting against Mystics who only relied on Bull Frenzy, Grab, Engage, and shit like that. I think Mystic right now, the problem with Mystic right now is it's really, really, really good at scaling. And I think that's one of the main problems. When people fight against Mystics now and they come across Mystics, they don't really fight many undergeared Mystics or around the same gear as them. The Mystics that they usually fight against are the ones that have more gear than them. And when it comes to a Mystic, like because a lot of the CC that a Mystic has is knockdown, which is obviously, is a very strong form of CC. And obviously they've got multiple very reliable down smashes. That makes Mystics feel like they can keep you on the floor forever, because it's essentially they can with a knockdown grab, obviously Thunder Pound, knockdown, roaring, etc. So that makes them incredibly dangerous to play against in a 1v1 situation. Obviously you've mentioned stuff like vacuum grab is still a thing and stuff like this. So Mystic right now, endgame, still as strong as it used to be. Like there are changes, obviously like 2 Crouching Wolf and stuff like that, so you can't necessarily engage with Stiffen. But I think the kind of early game Mystic players kind of got cooked a little bit, and they're the ones that are suffering more than the end game players. But there's no really middle stage of Mystic players anymore. Like the Mystics between 296 and 330 DP don't really exist anymore. And I think that's the misconception with Mystic, or the misunderstanding that people have with the class. It's a crazy strong class in regards to combo. Like its actual base damage on its abilities aren't super high, but the combo it can do and how long it can keep you on the floor is obviously super strong, and its scaling is really high.
I think for me, like when I fight a Mystic, which I don't do a lot of PvP, but it's like the amount of super armors and stuff. As a person who's less experienced in PvP, I don't know when the opportunity is to go in. Like I get suctioned, and I'm like, what's the counterplay? Like what's the opening? And so I think
you're a
that's
Valkyrie player, right?
Played Valkyrie and playing Sork as a main.
Okay, so if you're a Valkyrie against a Mystic, you can grab them out of their vacuum.
Right, because it's not. Yeah. I mean, it's just expressing my frustration with that, and I think that's also why Sork also is like you iframe and you don't know how, like players don't know how to counter that, right? How do I counter that and then get CC'd, right? It's just annoying to fight against in the current meta.
Is there a specific like is it the protection that's hard to fight against? Like what makes a Mystic for you personally difficult to fight against? Is it how well they can zone you, or
it's a knowledge-based fight. So if I don't know what abilities are the openings, what abilities are not the openings, and that so I feel like as a player who doesn't know how to fight a Mystic, it's all about knowing that fight. And for Mystic, there's more to know than other classes, and same for Sorceress. I think that's why both those classes are more annoying to fight against, and then desync just aids that even more.
Wait, so your issue with Mystic is that you need to know how to fight it?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing about it is it has very little openings, and it's a knowledge-based fight. It's very, very knowledge-based, and with desync, it makes it even more frustrating when you're trying to figure out how to fight, and then one time you do something and it desyncs, it doesn't work properly, and next time it works properly, and you don't know which is the right answer.
Well, the answer is to go into the battle arena with a Mystic and walk through the skills so you understand. I mean, if you blindly fight every class, then of course you're going to stumble across, eventually you're going to be like, okay, that's not protected, but it's going to take you longer,
I'm just expressing how I feel about the class, right? And which I think is that my scope is very limited because of my experience in PvP, right? But I think that's where the sentiment against Mystic comes from, is when they fight one, they get this very linear perspective on it, where obviously when you're a Mystic yourself and you have the broader scope and you fight against better players, that's not the case anymore, right?
Right. I mean, Mystic is obviously a class that's very easily kept protected, and I guess maybe if you were inexperienced, you wouldn't then know how to punish the class. It would be like Megan Fox or something trying to figure out how to play against Mystic. But I don't think it's relevant to then bring up that you don't understand how to fight Mystics because you've never looked at the class.
I think it's the opposite approach of the whole Ninja argument, right? Ninja has super, super high skill, high mobility, right? And then I think Mystic's on the opposite side of that, where on the low end, it's very, very frustrating. And on the high end, I think it's more balanced. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. I leave it to someone else to kind of discuss it more, because that's about all I want to say on it.
Yeah, I would love to, because a lot of people, it's very easy to instantly say Mystic super strong. But I love to have conversations with people on like the main parts of Mystic and like certain sections of Mystic and different elements of it. So if anyone else has any comments, I'd love to.
Yeah, for me, it's specifically the fact that they have two 30% slows, or one of them's like 20 or something like that. Anyway, they got two really crippling slows and the suck. That is my biggest gripe with the class. Yeah. I would be fine if the slow had some sort of contribution to the CC limit and they had only one slow, or maybe they make slows count towards CC limit somehow. But it's just the fact that it's just such a crippling class to fight when your class doesn't deal well with being slowed and also can't do anything about being sucked like most classes.
This is probably going to be an unpopular opinion too, but when I compare myself to the opposite class, I mean, yeah, we're bursty. They have a very different toolkit, but they have a lot of options of survivability within that toolkit, with slows being one of them. When I hear that, I'm just like, oh, well, why can't I have like 2 reliable slows? And that's definitely not what Striker needs.
Well, what you're actually saying now is like, I completely agree. The Mystic slow is very strong. The only problem is like the Mystic slows, both of them are unprotected. Like obviously you can argue that Wave Orb you can technically charge it, so it's a forward guard, but most of the time you insta cancel Wave Orb for the animation. So both Dragon Pit and Wave Orb, excuse me, are both unprotected forms of debuffing. So I can understand that. I think making it so I don't personally like heavy amounts of debuffs. I don't like the paralysis from mages, and I don't like the debuff from mystics. I think it takes a lot of fun away from the class and slows down the game a lot more. Like I don't personally like it, but regarding the actual abilities themselves, they are unprotected. So in like obviously large scale situations, it's hard to get them off.
Another thing about Mystic that I just kind of thought of, their protected area skill, I feel like that should no longer be protected area when you get grabbed out of it. I think it should be PA when you're in that bubble, but it seems like because you cast it, and if you get CC'd out of it, you still have it for like 6 seconds. I'm not sure if that's intended or not.
I thought they fixed that.
No, that was a bug that got fixed.
So how it works
is... It still works for Mystics. I don't know. Like they're still taking no damage after I grab them out of it.
As soon as it ends, they'll release like animation. As soon as that happens, that's when you grab them. Because if you grab them before, then they get an extra 3 seconds of PA.
Yeah, if a Mystic does in a 1v1 situation, if a Mystic is in a Fortitude against the grab class, you've essentially lost the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like if any
fixed the issue where you could cancel it, right, and you would get it.
Yeah, so before you could cancel and still remain the buffs. But now if you do in a Fortitude in any kind of 1v1 fight against the grab class waits till the end of getting a Fortitude animation, because you can't cancel the end of it, and then you instantly get grabbed by them, and then the fight is instantly turned on the other side. It's a very like counterproductive use. You only really use it in a situation where, let's say, if Zerker is 100%ing, I would use it to try and nullify the damage essentially. But it could be turned against me at the end.
I personally think in like large scale, Mystics have a very boring fight. All they can really do is they can suction, and then if they have a lot of AP, they can get an ult off, but it's not like as insane as other ults, of course.
I think the one thing we didn't really talk about as well with all these, I feel like we're talking on a small scale perspective. Like, how is Mystic faring in the current condition of the game in large scale?
Very unfun and not enjoyable in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
The problem is a lot of classes are like that, though.
Yeah,
they're either like 100% or like one gimmicky ability that they have that they use, or the Q buff, or the something like that. But except for like wizards and witches, I guess. It's this large scale situation. Yeah, no, that's probably true, I guess. The vacuum I still think is very strong.
Oh no, the vacuum's great.
Yeah, vacuum is way strong, but the actual mechanics and how Mystic performs are super strong 1v1. But in regards to large scale, it's not a fun kind of playstyle at all for Mystic players. Unless you're defending a castle and you're playing a chokehold, kind of like you want to play it that way, like at front gate of Valencia or something like that, then obviously it's pretty fun then, in regards to because they're pushing into you. But if you're playing it in regards to a large blob versus another large blob, there's it's not very fun.
But again, I think that goes back to just general large-scale balance being like that for a lot of classes, which is a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why people go to small scale, because they want to avoid that and play more of their classes kit.
Yeah, I mean, 30 versus 30, you're going to get way more enjoyment out of the classes in that situation. So,
why is that? What changed in large scale that made that happen?
People got less protected. The CC changes came in, and then people got overbuffed. But for some reason, they thought it was a good idea to buff everybody's 100%, and certain classes got even bigger buffs on already strong 100%. And then they added the wound system. I don't know. It's just.
It's because.
And the thing is, it's not. We lost protections, and they made us more vulnerable to CC by improving the resistances. They changed the resistances. So depends on how you build, you could end up being Omega CC'd, or like you have to end up building like resistance. I don't know. It's weird. They changed a lot of shit in 2018 that really fucked with it.
Yep.
It was never perfect, but it's better.
Anything else?
But now,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Divios actually was gonna say something, but I interrupted him.
Oh, I forget what I was gonna say.
Okay. I think the only thing I can really add on top of that is I personally think that Mystic is like for example, a lot of people think Mystic is like the best grinder in the game. And if you take into consideration places like Hystria, super busted. And like I said this before, the reason why she's so strong is because she can essentially perma CC mobs. Like if you do a normal rotation, then you get perma back attack. It's like that's obviously makes the class super strong. But in like areas like Sakraya and stuff like that, she falls off a little bit. But the one thing that maintains like super high on Mystic is her sustain. And I think this is like unfair, like personally, because I played multiple like different classes now. When you play different classes and you see the massive amounts of difference across the entire like class base of how different sustain is on each class, I think that's one thing that I think's really unfair on Mystic. That I can at almost any level on Mystic, as soon as you get like your F in Awakening to self heal, you can farm without potions in almost any area in the game. Like I think that's one part of Mystic that's kind of unfair. But I don't know if that's just because Mystics. It's like Mystics are in a better position because of that, or if every other class is in a bad position because they don't have as much sustain.
For me, I never really cared that much about that part. I guess, yeah, I don't know. I never really cared that much about sustain in other classes just because, I mean, potions literally cost nothing. Like, I think the only thing that's problematic about the sustain is that they can farm grind spots with lower DP than other classes. And that's not inherently a bad thing for Mystic, which is supposed to be a low damage dealing class in PvP, but still, you know, tanky. So it kind of makes sense that they're supposed to be tanky. It just doesn't make sense on the other hand that they're also amazing at PvE. So maybe adjust the sustain in PvE, but overall, I mean, we're kind of just like, it just seems like we're nitpicking really about that.
No. I mean, personally, I think that if you have an ability that gives you health on hit, you have a huge advantage over another class, because essentially that ability that gives you health on hit, especially if it's like a protected ability as well, that ability allows you to maintain damage while also sustaining. So areas like Sakraya and stuff like that, you can maintain the damage without having to move and protect yourself in different ways. So
or you just like really pop a HP pot that costs like 100 silver. Like, I mean, it's I don't know if it really matters much, right?
Well, I guess. All right, I understand what you're saying there. They can interact with lower DP levels and be viable, where other classes have to have more DP to be viable with HP pots, because you get HP pots and heal abilities, where our classes get HP pots, right? Yes. I can see why that would be a beneficial thing for Mystics, because then you can go into those places earlier, and that feels very impactful if you can do that earlier on.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Anything else to contribute on the topic of Mystic? Do we feel confident in coming to a close for this class?
Yes, but I'm not happy about this potion thing. I'm just going to point it out. Both potion things.
Okay. I want to talk about Ranger. Because I feel like
here we go.
I feel like you have a deep opinion on this one. Anfield?
Hello.
You speak your mind.
All right, Ranger has two problems. Problem numero uno is that the class is a little lackluster when compared to most other classes in certain aspects of the game when we're talking about overall effectiveness versus your actual input into the class. Problem number two, and it's called Archer. Archer basically makes the class very redundant because it's the most busted, disgusting thing that's ever been added to this game, and anyone that plays that is disgusting, and I hate you. So you're kind of Archer's
fine.
You have a big issue because if you you have a class that essentially makes anything you do with Ranger kind of redundant, and that's kind of a shame. So you have to kind of figure out Ranger's new identity in a sense. Now, we do have obviously our Awakening kit, but the problem with the Awakening kit is it really doesn't do any damage. So that kind of like assassin playstyle doesn't play off quite as smoothly. Our bow does have nice damage, but compared to Archer, we have significantly less CC. We have no protection on our bow damage. And of course, it has more split and other issues that, so Ranger is...
What is the Ranger PvE like? What is the current condition for Ranger PvE?
It's awful unless you're really high AP, because once you get enough AP to grind Sakraya, it's not so bad. But the reason it's not so bad is because other classes can't abuse back attacks anymore. So we kind of level the playing field. Our PvE damage isn't bad. It exists and it's fine, but It's just, yeah, I mean, in history, we don't have back attacks, and that's our big problem. We can't really keep up because of that. In Akhman, we're kind of okay, but not, I don't know. A lot of classes actually struggle with Akhman, so I won't complain about that too much. But earlier grind spots, Ranger is not super terrible. Just, again, I mean, potions, you know, which actually are a problem because that adds to weight limit, which for newer players sucks really hard. And even for veteran players, having to carry a lot of potions is not a fun thing to do. And it does add up because if you're carrying 300 potions at endgame grind slots, and then you have to go and refill that, that's, you know, a couple mil worth, and that adds up over a long period of time. So our sustaining is terrible. So that's kind of the two issues. But the damage is fine. So the only thing that really needs changing is maybe our stamina so we can move between packs a little bit more comfortably. And in general, that's a PvP thing too. And then also our back attacks need to be improved. Basically, if you don't know, a ranger back attack applies, or a ranged back attack applies in a sense where you have to be basically giving the mob very intimate relations in the back before it'll actually count, even on the Awakening kit. So it means that we can't abuse the back attacks, which is what makes a lot of classes so fast. Namiko was obviously talking about Mystic before, where Mystic was able to sustain back attacks. So it makes, but you know, in Sakurai they fall off a little bit. That's what makes classes so fast, and that's why Ranger is quite poor in that spot. So sustain and back attacks are the main two things you need to fix on Ranger for PvE.
How are you faring in large scale right now? How does the entire class, like gear progression scale? You said that the damage isn't that bad so long as you have a lot of AP, but how is the experience like on the way to soft cap as well?
Well, you can't, as a ranger in large scale PvP, if you have low AP, you can't do anything, but that's kind of true of a lot of classes, so I wouldn't really particularly complain about that. Our bow damage is unprotected, so it's all about like, if you position even a little bit incorrectly, you get punished really hard. But obviously you have archers spamming higher levels of damage while protected with CCs more. So yeah, large scale PvP is a weird one because I actually think Ranger fares a lot better than a lot of other classes because of the fact that we do have decent damage once you do get the bow up there in damage. But it's frustrating because you're so crippled on stamina. You're so easily caught by any other class because we have less protection than every other class. So I don't want to complain about large scale too much because I think that Ranger is mostly okay, but I think a lot of it comes down to just needing a bit more stamina in large scale PvP really to make it feel worth it. Either that or you have to do something about the Awakening because, you know, we can't go into a middle of a blob and use our Awakening, which is half our kit. But you can't do that. It just wouldn't work.
She has like no protections.
How would you solve the stamina issue without making PvE potentially overpowered?
How would PvE become overpowered if you could give Ranger infinite stamina, it still wouldn't make it that overpowered. I mean,
yeah, it needs protections.
The class is just the most unprotected class in the game, and the problem is that's not really viable in how large scale often works with engages going on top of you. You need some protected damage, and Ranger doesn't have any. But again, I wouldn't overdo it because the thing is, like, Ranger, just like how you see archers now, it would be very easy to overdo it Ranger and take it from what it is now into probably the strongest class in the game. So yeah, I mean, like for you guys with your classes, you have like someone's talking about we have one protected CC. Well, Ranger has one too, but it's on a 14-second cooldown with pre-awakening that does no damage and it's a stiffen. So, and it's unprotected at the start, so it's even almost not protected. But things like this, like that you need kind of for a lot of classes, Ranger has to work around some way. So there's actually a lot of, I don't know, it's kind of a deep discussion for Ranger because you just want to be careful not to overdo anything. But yeah, I mean, I guess like there's lots of different ways you could go about it. You know, there's like different angles. You could take the Awakening and you could buff up the damage a little bit. For example, Nature's Tremble is on a 21-second cooldown, is a forward guard, has a long animation you can't cancel out of, and does almost no damage. There's no point me using Nature's Tremble in any ability or any situation to do damage, in whether that's a large scale to hit multiple people or if it's in a 1v1. I would always use the bow because the bow does way more damage than that skill.
It's the same with regeneration. I don't understand why that thing is so long too.
That animation is another one that used to have forward guard. They removed it. You can have super armor if you have 50% Black Spirit Rage, but it does significantly less damage than, say, Grim Reaper's Judgment on Sorks or you know, the God tier Terra Sancta. I would rather have Nature's Tremble.
Why would you waste 50 rage though?
Well, you do it for protection. As simple as that.
I mean, like,
because
just 50 more and you get a Z buff, right?
Yeah, but in a situation where people are engaging on you, having a super armor is more useful for a class that is so underprotected. There probably isn't an easier class in this game to catch than Ranger, so having a 50% Black Spirit Rage is so vital compared to... I mean, the Z buff would be nice if you're just spamming both skills in the back, but that's not always the case, so it kind of is situational. But the thing is, it doesn't really do any damage. It would be nice.
No, it's just, like, I thought it was the animation speed up, so you can just Q blast away from people too fast.
But, I mean, that's, like, chug so much stamina, you couldn't do that. I mean,
I know,
and most classes are so much faster than Ranger too. Like we have some shitty 10% passive movement speed, but ninjas and kunos are way faster than that just walking.
10% doesn't work unless you put your weapons away, though.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Even if you do that, it doesn't. You're so slow, and obviously your weapon is away, and you're completely unprotected. That's super.
Like
so that's like kind of archaic.
Well, the fastest way you can run with a Ranger is just like you use your E buff or the Shift Q in Awakening, and then once the 10 seconds runs out, you put away your weapons, and you'll run faster than any class.
So what's a good like way for quality of life to make it better, right? Like obviously like making it where mana costs less would be nice.
No, well, mana is fine on the class. I mean,
right?
It's not great. Yeah, HP pots. Mana used to be a massive issue with the class, but now it's more stamina and still HP. We have no way to self-sustain ourselves, right? We have Cold Blade, which is the most pathetic skill ever invented to heal. It has no protection, and I think it heals us about 40 hit points. So some small measure of increase to the HP sustain would be nice for both large scale and grinding, obviously, because whatever choice says, it's not fun carrying a ton of pots.
Even then, like regeneration itself should just give like a restore of mana and health over time buff.
There was like discussions within the Ranger Discord about like things that we would have, when all these survey links went up about what to do with the class. And one thing was suggested that regeneration, which restores a tiny bit of mana, should restore HP and stuff like that as well. But I mean, that's like I said, there's lots of skills you could give a little bit of HP sustain on. So yeah, it would be nice to do that. I mean, our trainable passive, for example, is also useless for mana regen. That could be very easily fixed. So there's lots of little things like that for sustain. Believe me, if you play a class where you never have to worry about HP pots and your class will sustain itself automatically, you have no idea what it's like to for example, DK is the same. When you grind and you have to always worry about HP pots. I mean, now we have frenzies, which make it a little bit nicer, but of course, it would still be nice.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't think that the fact that Mystic can sustain itself is a problem. I think the fact that you can't sustain yourself on your class is a problem. I don't think we should nerf that on Mystic. I think we should buff that on Ranger.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think that's fair. Although
I had that as a feedback loop too. It's just more or less like the passive tree and for instance, like for the mana regen or whatever is really pathetic when other classes just have it inherently built into their skills. Like Archer just shoots a Luthergon's Call into a crowd and he gets his whole bar back.
Well, they have Ranger 3 healing skills.
Yeah, so it's just like, it's just a archaic, like old design system that they just completely forgot about and never looked at it.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a true choice that like I wouldn't necessarily see that those classes should be nerfed. The only thing is that recently Pearl Abyss was interviewed in the same thing they brought up the Succession all about that. Someone mentioned, do you think it's fair that some classes can't sustain? And they said basically that they want to keep classes unique and not having sustain as part of a uniqueness. If you want to play a sustain class, play a sustain class, which is the most retarded thing I've ever heard because almost every class in this game can sustain itself except for a very few select classes.
Yeah.
And also it would make sense that you can't sustain if you were actually faster at grinding, but unfortunately for Ranger and to a lesser degree DK, you're not only not able to sustain yourself, but you are grinding slower. So that doesn't really make much sense, but it also doesn't give me much hope that Pearl Abyss seems to know what they're talking about, because that's literally coming from an interview that they had. And it was very disheartening to read that. So yeah. It's a hard one because
I feel like most of like Rangers like consumption of resource should just be split between stamina and mana. Right now it feels like it's just everything is on stamina and you just can't do anything once you run out of it, and there's no like stamina regen pots or whatever.
Yeah, it's just really crippling in both PvP and PvE. If you have to move around a lot as a raid in a large scale fight, it's really hard for Rangers to keep up.
Oh, just even grinding. Like I tried to re-roll into a Ranger a few months back, and that was like it wasn't even the mana problems. Mana was like still a pretty big issue, but it's like even stamina too. She just runs out of everything, and that's it.
Well,
you can't.
I didn't enjoy that leveling process.
Our mana issues would be something that most classes would be like, this is outrageous. But because it's something that's so much less significant in terms of as a crippling factor as our stamina, it just doesn't get mentioned as much anymore, because they did do some minor buffs over the years to our sustain with mana. But obviously then we got hit with the big slap of the stamina.
Yeah.
So now the class is...
Where I originally found out that Ranger was super crippling on these pots is I was doing Altar of Blood, and Altar of Blood, you bring in a limited amount of potions and you go through these waves of mobs. We didn't even get to like wave 10 and our Ranger was like already out of pots, and we were like feeding our Ranger pots. Like it's crazy how much it uses in excess of other classes. And from the perspective of like my class, I have to carry pots when I grind. I carry HP pots, I carry WP pots. And for me, it's like, okay, you pop one here or there, but if I stock up on 40 pots and WP and like 100 HP pots, I'm going to be able to grind for, a good 30 minutes an hour. Yeah. Whereas that's really not the case for Ranger. And you guys are just ripping through the pots like crazy. So there's really not much of a comparison between Ranger and other classes. Like you said, DK is like another one, but for the most part, there's just like some really big outliers in classes that just can't seem to live without any pots, or just are completely crippled by not having hundreds of them.
I find that an interesting thing that you bring up, like when you got to pick up pots from the tent, you do 100 HP, you do 40 WP, which is the same amount that I do as well. My question to you, Anfield, do you have like a regular similar like a number that you grab from your tent for like a regular top up? Like how many pots are you usually buying in your inventory for like on your grind?
Depends on the grind spot. Star's End, I usually bring about 240 for an hour grind.
Like how
because
many
I have an
WP
evasion
potions
build,
is what I'm trying to understand. Not as a total.
Mana.
Yeah, it's
mana
depends. Potions. Sorry.
It depends on how much money I want to spend. If I run, for example, Spirit Perfume for the extra crit when I drop for Frenzy instead of Giants, then I don't need to run mana, because obviously that gives so much on regen. But if you were talking normally, I would use a lot. But I haven't really grinded without a Spirit Perfume for a while. But again, like mana is a big issue, and Choice brought it up absolutely. I tried to do Altar of Blood. We did it with 2 Rangers, and by stage 10, we were both so out of potions, even though I brought over 500 of each. So, but the bigger issue is like the HP potions. Like, so for example, I would bring 240 large to Star's End. And that's because I have an evasion build and they have low accuracy. But if I go to another spot, even when I was running DR, for example, Sakraya, I would have to bring well over 300 for an hour grind, and then have to obviously refill that every time. And it does add up. When you're talking about years of grinding on a class with no sustain, that is a lot of money that it goes by. And it's also annoying, because before fairies, we had to do that manually. Now we can do it with a fairy if you're lucky enough to have a good fairy. So... yeah,
it's way higher than I use. I could go to like 100, 150 there.
Yeah, it's just kind of something that is like, it doesn't need to be there. When other classes, almost every other class can do it sustaining quite easily. And then obviously in large scale PvP, most classes have some way to heal themselves during a fight. Not all, but almost all of them again. It kind of sucks to have to pot your way through all of your hit points, or rely on a witch or wizard to do it for you when other classes are like smacking the air to get HP back. And I wouldn't want an ability that would give me like tons of HP back. Just like every now and then I could heal myself for like 400 or something. That would be quite a nice change. So I don't have to potion, because that's another thing. We're just going through potions all the time in PvP as well. It's not just a PvE issue. I mean,
which
obviously every class
have HP regen on hitting air. Like I always thought that on hit abilities required like actually hitting something. I know there's specific heals obviously that just heal, but like for Striker, for example, don't you have to connect on something with your heals?
Yes.
No.
Well, no, sorry. No, not on Roaring Tiger. Not on Ferocious Assault, on Endless Explosion and Iron Fist Fury. But those are minor. The ones we
Mystic
have
is
to
the
connect are
same.
very minor.
Warrior.
Yes.
The newer
What's the
classes
skill on
have
Warrior called?
the newer classes almost always have something up a heal like that. Yeah.
Pulverized?
Can't remember which one it's called, but Warrior has one, and then you have Mystic, of course, that does it. Valks have an actual heal,
well
not
as
an
the
attack.
flow from rampaging rampaging cutter
Pulverize.
as well. I think it's called Prey Hunt. I actually keep that locked. Or bite off, the flow bite off. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that as well. That doesn't have to hit anything. And it is a reliable heal, but I keep it locked because I think the animation's too long. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Block.
No, I'm saying. Yeah, like there's ones that have heals on hit, like Spiral Cannon heals a little bit, Endless Explosion heals a little bit, and yeah, Fist Fury heals a little bit, but it's mainly just like, yeah, Roaring Tiger, Ferocious Assault, and Bite Off that just all heal just from me throwing it at the air.
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily need, just a general heal. Any kind of small heal would be nice, quality of life wise. But that's just one side of things. It was just the sustain is kind of a big issue in PvE, so I guess it was worth talking about because PvE is so much of this game is going in a circle, killing mobs, and it obviously is something that, both in terms of adding up of costs and also because of inconvenience versus other classes that don't have to deal with it. It's just a little bit of an issue. But
I think having an ability you could rotate for mana would be really, really nice on Ranger.
Well, again, the mana is a problem, but it's the last thing of the sustaining issues that I would want touched. So yeah. But yeah, no, the class is extremely fun, which is why people still play it over classes like Archer that obviously do the job better. But maybe just like give Shotgun a forward guard again. It did have it for like 2 months, and then they're like, nah, 2018 changes. That's a 3-second forward guard on the skill. So obviously it's not a spammable forward guard, but it would allow you to flow out of a skill called Piercing Wind, which is the skill we use to get into Shotgun from the Awakening. That would just give us a little bit of a breathing space to get into the bow, because obviously, I mean, I don't expect to have like protected CCs on the bow. I think that would be absurd, and I think any class that has that should be deleted from the game. But it would be nice to have a little bit of protected damage here and there. That's not too much to ask for, not loads, but just a little bit.
Now, do we have anything else to pitch in on the topic of Ranger? I feel like we're coming to a close on this class right now. Okay, now we have 4 other classes left to cover, but we're 2.5 hours again deep into this. I think this is a good place to come to a close. Classes that we have yet to talk about: Lawn, Archer, Warrior, and Dark Knight. Past that, we've pretty much had an open conversation with everything. And please, for everyone who's been listening and contributing as well, please understand that a lot of these things that are shared are opinions based on encounters of other classes, the class that people have played, tried, rolled off of. I understand that there may be people who have a deeper knowledge of certain classes that may have been brought up that may have other things to contribute. But this is overall just a conversation to express our opinions and hopefully just put things on the table that we can talk about and be able to have this open conversation. We've had a lot of agreements, we've had a lot of disagreements, and I think a lot of us have maybe even potentially learned some things along the way of having this conversation. We've had a massive amount of people show up today, which I'm really grateful for. Some really awesome, every single name in here is an awesome creator in this directory, so I appreciate everyone taking the time to just come hang out and give so much time for this. So seriously, hats off to you guys. And this was a really easy conversation to have. This was easily moderated. This was easily, everyone kept everyone in mind. So, I mean, I'm just trying to say, like, a big pat on the back for you guys, because I feel like this is an easy and easily controlled conversation with the amount of people in the room, because I did expect this to potentially be a complete clutter, and that's not what this was. Before I just wrap this up as a conclusion, does anyone feel like they have anything they want to bring up? Potentially, maybe you want to chime in on something, a topic previously we brought up, didn't have a chance to get something across. I'm going to leave this to be an open for you guys to maybe get some final thoughts across. Okay.
Yeah, nobody brought up the CC that Ninja has on there. That's it, though.
No one wrote the CC on Ninja that has what?
Ninja has a CC on their E-buff.
A CC on their E-buff. Well, is there anything?
Oh yeah, it's our second, like, I think we have like 3 protected CCs: smokescreen, E-buff, and then our ultimates or like BSRs, whatever. When you E-buff as a ninja, you get a stun while also getting 50% heal and then the AP and all that stuff from it, and super armor.
Oh yeah.
Imagine CC and healing.
Yeah, so the stun on that could definitely be removed too.
That's actually disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But it's like a 3-minute. It's pretty retarded.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Oh.
I
was just gonna say, aside from what I said, Ranger does actually have a couple bugs that will be nice if they fix, such as Razor Wind will auto stun you while you're PvEing, which can get you killed in Sakraya, for example, or any dangerous grind spot. It'll basically stand you up, and then you get Please Try Again in a moment. And that also happens when you run out of stamina on the class. Sometimes it'll stun you, and it'll say Please Try Again in a moment. So that is actually more urgent stuff that needs to be addressed. And I think other classes have this stamina buff. I don't know if you guys have noticed it. If you run out of stamina, it might stun you, and then it'll say Please Try Again in a moment. Yeah. But it definitely happens on Ranger, so I don't know about the other classes.
That has happened, but Striker doesn't deal with stamina issues it's not too often I run into even classes that deplete my stamina. Stamina's not an issue for Striker.
I want to add one thing. Musa chase down hills. Thank you very much. Please fix.
Any speed going down hills just seems to be a weird thing, but
please
I can see why you'd say that completely.
Falling animations when you use skills is ridiculous.
Self-falling animations, self-given CCs. We were talking about this a bit last week as well, because Striker can self-CC on flat ground, but it's very inconsistent. So I don't know. I said in short last week that I thought it had something to do with potentially server, and I think it's something to do with something server-sided, but again, I completely agree with and for that. Okay, we're coming to a close. I'm not letting you guys say anything else. We're getting out of here. Guys, everyone, thank you so much.
Thanks, Fig.
No, what? Thank you to you guys. You guys are awesome. And everyone who joined us, make sure you guys check out everyone. Everyone's details will be in the description down below for the video. So make sure you guys consider checking out everyone here. Everyone here is a very well-known creator in this directory and has a lot of different knowledge to contribute. And if you guys are new players coming into the game looking for some advice or anything, these are definite people to check out and consider watching. Guys, thank you very much for your opinions and perspectives today. I look forward to talking to you guys next week.